Show of the show. My name is James R.A. Hendry, and on camera David. David, what is yours? Just David.
David Norman Easton.
Norman. Gosh. Norman. Is that your father's name?
My grandfather.
Grandfather's name.
My father was David.
Your father was David. Well, there it is then. And apparently it was also Kirsten's grandfather's name. 2 Normans in one generation, if you can believe it. Now, if you're wondering why the pre-show is slightly different from the show, well, it's just so that you know we're live, and so that you may subscribe by clicking on the little bell. Bing! So you can click on the bell and then you'll know when we're live. Now, of course, this is ridiculous because if you wouldn't know that we were live now if you didn't know that we were live, if you know what I mean. It's a bit of a sort of circular argument, but there it is. I think the idea is that one day we will go live as and when the action occurs. So get in on the action early, everybody. David, did you sleep well?
Very well.
Everyone, it was very hot in our rooms last night. Very hot indeed. It is mercifully cooler this morning, 23. But apparently, which is 77, apparently it's going to be 36 or so today. Very hot indeed. 74 Fahrenheit now, sorry. David, let's quickly show our pre-show audience the hippopotamus. Hello, hippopotamus. Welcome to the pre-show show. Wonderful. Hippopotamus is a good way of warming up the mouth, David. Hippopotamus. The hungry hippopotamus hunted hares all night long. The hungry hippopotamus hunted hares. The red-billed buffalo weaver ate a buffalo. The red-billed buffalo weaver ate a buffalo. Marula trees are marvelous in the morning. Marula trees are marvelous in the morning. Lions are lovely in lingerie. Lions are lovely in lingerie. Leopards leap through the loop. Leopards leap through the loop. White-browed scrub robins wander wistfully. White-browed scrub robins wassail wistfully with whiskey. White-browed scrub robins wassail wistfully with whiskey. Ah, that's a good one. White-browed scrub robins wassail wistfully with whiskey. Wistfully with whiskey. Wistfully with whiskey. Marvelous. Very good. White-browed scrub robins wander wistfully with whiskey. Combretum apiculatum is a common tree here. Combretum apiculatum. Ha, ha, ha. Goodbye, everybody. See you just now.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, and so far we've already found a journey of giraffe, but that's not all that we're hopefully going to see, and this is Safari Live.
Ready?
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, and welcome to a cloudy Sunrise Safari. I don't think it's going to be cloudy for too long. Now, my name is Taylor, and on camera with me this morning we have Brian, and of course, the very smart-looking Thumb. What does he look like today? Is he tired? Oh, he's tired. Look at those bags under his eyes. Oh, no, Thumb. You'll be all right. You can have an afternoon siesta, of course. Now, we've got a couple of giraffe. I just want to go forward. We can see if we can get a better view of one of these giraffe. There's a nice view. Good morning. And you can see straight away that this is a young male. Just munching away. And it's easy to tell that that is a young male because the ossicones, the little horns on top of their head, you can see quite clearly are bald, just in case you are watching for the first time. Now remember, you are watching a live safari at the moment. And if you'd like to chat to myself or James, well, we'd love to hear from you. And you can send us some questions by either hashtagging safariLIVE on Twitter, or you could send us an email at questions@wildearth.tv. Now, I'm not sure what James's plan is this morning, but I'm sure it will involve at some point searching for the nkahumas. However, I'd like to try and find a spotted cat. And I would love to go to Cheetah Plains, of course, to go and look for the leopard. Hopefully quarantine. Maybe somebody else. Maybe Nkanyeni's around. I still yet to see her cubs. But I think let's not waste too much time. Thank you very much, Giraffe, for showing your faces very briefly. Let's continue on the road. Now, we're also checking the southern boundary, of course, because it feels as though it's about that time that Karula and her two beautiful darling cubs are going to come across. Actually, there's another species of animal with the giraffe that I've just noticed. Have a look at that. Now, where we were viewing them, there were lots of trees, and I didn't see the buffalo moving in between the giraffe's legs. And isn't this amazing? Because now you can really get an idea of the size of a buffalo. Now, the two that we're looking at, they aren't particularly large. They look like two youngsters, a young bull closest to us. But you'll see that if a giraffe was willing, that buffalo, and the buffalo was willing, they would quite happily fit straight underneath the legs of the giraffe and not even touch its belly. Isn't that amazing? But now the giraffe didn't hang around long enough. Of course, to do that, they could have had a game of limbo this morning. It would be quite an interesting limbo game to play. What do you think, hey, Brian? Safari limbo. Right, but let's continue on. Now, I'm going to search very carefully before I even think of going to Cheetah Plains, looking for some leopard tracks crossing into Djuma. But I know that James would very much like to actually say, well, officially, sorry, say hello to you.
Good morning, everyone. It always feels a little odd saying good morning again after the pre-show shenanigans, but here we are, officially on the show. Yes, that's what we're on. My name is James Henry. David is on camera. Good morning, David.
Morning.
Yes, very nice. I see that your hat matches your jacket. That's very nice indeed. He's branded to the max today. Of course, we don't show any branding on the show, so he has to remain behind the scenes. You've met Taylor already. She's being filmed by Brian, obviously, whose thumb I'm sure you've seen. We are heading up towards Buffelshoek Dam. Now, there are a number of reasons for that. Firstly, the Nkahuma pride has been around here. 5 leonesses and their 8 cubs, perhaps a male with them too. But there was the death from, we think, natural causes in Buffelshoek Dam a few days ago. That hapless animal was pulled out of the water by the Djuma staff, and then two others Taylor found there yesterday. I think it was Taylor, may have been Byron. Anyway, in the water, not looking good at all. So we're going to go and see if they're still there. Maybe the lions at the dam. I think it's a good place for us to start. That is the plan for the morning. Please do talk to us during the course of the morning. It's not an afternoon. Well, it is afternoon somewhere in the world. Hashtag safariLIVE or questions at wildearth.tv. It would be nice to hear from you, and we can talk about anything you like within reason. We can talk about Africa, South Africa, the Kruger, wilderness in general. We can talk about the animals that we hope to see, the animals that we do see. And just appreciate while we do this, it has been such a boon time out here, because this part of the Sabi Sand, which is the sort of western edge of the Kruger Park that we call home, has had so much rain in comparison with the southern ends of the Sabi Sand. And so we've had an astonishing number of wildebeest and giraffe and waterbuck and impala, all of them here. And around every corner, around every bush, there's been something to see. That time, everybody, will not last forever. Nothing lasts forever, David. No. Except baldness. That does seem to last forever. Now, Ellen, in Arkansas, the question of the rapidly dying buffalo has sort of piqued your interest. And I think that they are dying because the grass is not long enough for them to eat yet. So let's just look at this patch of grass here, David. Let me jump out the car. If Taylor finds anything of astounding worth, Kirsten will tell you, David, and you will tell me, all right? Oh, good. Now, Ellen, when a buffalo feeds, what it does is it wraps its tongue around a long piece of grass, pulls that out, and then puts it into its mouth. It does have bottom teeth. Obviously, none of these herbivores, the ruminant herbivores, have got top teeth, but it seems to lack the ability to take grass this short. Now, all of this grass, and I think that you're partly correct in what you say, this grass is ideal for something like an impala. It's ideal for a wildebeest or a zebra, probably slightly short for a zebra, but the zebra are managing. But for buffalo, it really isn't ideal at all. And that means that they're not eating this new grass, I don't think. So it's being kept short like this, as you say, by impala, zebra, wildebeest, other grazing animals. What they are eating, however, is this sort of stuff. They're browsing. Now this, and as we know, I mean, I've fed this to all the cameramen many times, it's full of tannins, full of various other chemical defenses that I don't know about, and it tastes horrible. It really is disgusting tasting, and you really got to have a digestive system capable of dealing with it in order to derive nutrients from it. And that's what the buffalo cannot do. They can do it from time to time. Most animals can mixed feed slightly. Sorry, David, I'm just going to go ahead to a flower over here. I'll bring it back to you. Most animals can do it intermittently, but you will find that it's rather difficult for buffalo to do it continuously, and eventually it's going to have an effect on their guts, and that's why I think they're looking so thin, because we have had rain. The warthog is certainly putting on condition. Impala taking a bit longer, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. A friend of mine got hold of me yesterday and told me some interesting stuff. This is quite cool. Any idea what these are, David?
Nope.
You see they have 5 wings. Normally this plant has got 4 wings. This one's 5-winged. It's a combretum, so it's a bush willow, everybody, but it's called the river bush willow. Not river bush willow, the climbing bush willow. Combretum mozambicense. It's the first one of those I found here. It's quite nice. Okay, let us continue. Now, what I was going to tell you was that a friend of mine got hold of me yesterday after I said on Drive that impala, that the males were faring a lot worse, I thought, than the females. Remember I said that to you yesterday? And then Steph reiterated that where he lives in Hoedspruit, he said the male warthogs are looking pretty ropey in comparison with the females. The females looking good. Apparently, this is an almost universal mammal phenomenon. So I said this on Drive yesterday, and a friend of mine got hold of me because he thought it was quite interesting. He did a whole lot of research, and he said, it's been noticed in mammal species from throughout the world that males recover far less easily from droughts and times of stress than the females do. And I think that's probably because, from an evolutionary perspective, because females, of course, are far more necessary to the raising of youngsters, so they need to be able to put on condition more. So perhaps the males just don't worry about it enough. They don't look after themselves sufficiently. And so that's why the male impala are looking ropey compared with the females, which I think is rather amazing, especially given that the females are all pregnant and about to give birth, which means their physiological demands are that much higher than the males, who just have to find themselves sufficient to eat. So, David, let that be a lesson to you. If you go through a drought, make sure you eat properly. Otherwise, you too will start looking like ropey impala, where the ladies will not. They shall maintain their magnificence, their feminine fantasticness. Right, we're popping up onto the hill here, round about where the Ninkapumas were yesterday, so let's keep an eye out. I, of course, have yet to see them killing a buffalo. Everybody else in the whole world has seen the Ninkapumas kill a buffalo. I am not one of them. There is a buffalo. It is not dead, though, nor is it being attacked, set upon by 5 lionesses. We'll just have a quick look at him, because I don't want to go down there. I want to go straight towards the dam, although there are no tracks coming along here. Anyway, there he is. I know you've seen a buffalo already. Hang on, there is one quite interesting thing here. You see that patch on his back there, Dave? Now, Chris, your question's going to lead me on to another topic. I just want to quickly look at this buffalo. I don't want to get too close to the stage, because I don't want him to run. You see that wound on his back? There. That is exactly where a lioness might start biting if she jumped onto the back of a buffalo. Now, I'm not sure that that's what that is, but it is possible. Now, he looks much better to me than many of the others we've seen. He looks like he's in pretty fine shape. But he's browsing still. You see, he's not eating grass. He's eating new young tree leaves of that pterocarpus there. So, Chris, you're saying, are there any plants or any flowers that the buffalo might be eating that could be poisoning them? Well, they are slowly poisoning themselves by eating only the leaves of trees like that. But in terms of flowers, no, I don't really think so. But I do think that the bovine tuberculosis that is in the area that affects all buffalo of the Kruger Park, I think that is definitely having an effect. It doesn't affect any animal that is nutritionally balanced, nutritionally well fed, and doesn't have some other kind of disease. I mean, a lot of human beings carry tuberculosis, and it never expresses because they eat sufficient, so it doesn't bug them. But I do think that the TB is affecting the buffalo. Oh dear, that's called reverse by touch, everybody. Scott Dyson taught me how to do that. Oh, Robin D, you say, do any animals like to eat flowers? I like to eat flowers. There are a whole lot of flowers in our fridge at the moment. Nasturtiums, I think they're called. And yes, they're definitely edible. Robin D, there are absolutely lots of flowers that animals like to eat. I'm not sure how many there are out here, but certainly there are also some toxic ones. But yeah, lots of animals will eat flowers out here, and some flowers are designed to be eaten. Or certainly the fruits that come thereafter. I can't think of a particularly obvious example though, but I've most certainly seen flowers being scoffed by various animals. Okay, Buffelshoek Dam is right around the corner. I'm just going to drive a little bit faster. We don't want to find the lions as they kill the buffalo. We want a little bit of a build-up, don't we? Of course, now that I expect them to kill a buffalo in front of me, they almost assuredly won't. Morning, Glory. I think that it's probably a little bit more complicated than that. You say the females, of course, many of them, of the antelope, the warthog, and that sort of thing, are pregnant, producing more estrogen as a result of it, and because of the estrogen that they're producing, you say, is that maybe why they're in better condition? I'm sure that's got to do with it. I suspect, though, it's an interaction of all sorts of complicated things. There's a impala, which means the lions are almost certainly not here. In fact, the only thing that's here is a hippopotamus. Right, well, we'll turn around the top of the dam wall here. And there's some waterbuck there. So, Morning Glory, I think you'll find it's a whole big suite of different hormonal interactions that contribute to the fact that, of course, the females need, for the good of their babies, to be in better condition than the males. Now, that will come with a cost. I mean, there will be a cost to that. It's not just that they are better at it, and I don't know what that cost will be. It might simply be that the time that they have to spend feeding, the stress involved, could be a lot greater than it is for the males. Very quiet dawn chorus today. Very little bird song in comparison with some of the other mornings we've had. It's 23 degrees, as I said to you earlier, 74 Fahrenheit. There's a wind coming out of the southeast. There was supposed to be some rain today, but that warning has sort of, what was the word I wanted today? Oh yes, withered away. That warning has withered away, and we think it's going to be pretty hot today now. Right, well, that is quite interesting. Let's go and turn around. That was some waterbuck at the end of the dam there. There is a vulture way in the distance, so we might pop across there, but I don't think the vulture would have got there during the course of the night. No, it wouldn't. There it is, looking very ominous. See, it's tucked its head in there. Just hiding its head from the wind. Okay, we'll turn around here and go back around. We'll go to where that dead buffalo was, or is now. See if the lions haven't decided to eat that rather than kill a fresh one. Hello Lisa, you're a new viewer. Marvellous to have you with us. Thank you for joining us and thank you for sending a question. You say, does the bush, I think your question is, does the bush ever get too thick for us to view animals? Well, the bush will get much, much thicker than it is now, and that is a result of the rain and the fact that the summer season will continue, and so the leaves will get more, the grass will get longer, and the bush will get thick. And come February, yes, game viewing will be not impossible, but it won't be nearly as easy as it is now. So we're really having great game viewing time at the moment. It never gets too thick for us to look at, but people often say, when should I come to Africa or to South Africa? When's the best time? And, I mean, there is no best time. But what I will say to you is that if you want to see the easiest game viewing time is definitely at the end of winter. Oh, David, that smell is something else. It's the end of winter, everybody. And the end of winter is sort of August to October. There's the buffalo. It's very dead. The lions have not had a go at it, but the vultures have. Amazing that an animal should get fatter in death than it was in life, isn't it? Quite impressive. Poor thing. So, in case you weren't watching, everybody, this buffalo, which of course is no longer with us, died in the water the other day, probably, as a result of the drought, be it from TB, or be it from just starvation, or be it from poisoning itself. Now, normally, in an ordinary sort of year or in an ordinary time, you would find hyenas and lions eating this thing, because any piece of food that is left out will be devoured. This will be eaten eventually by various things, but because there is so much around, so much food around at the moment, the lions haven't even bothered with it. This is disgusting. Let us leave here quickly. Lucky we haven't had breakfast yet, David. Yes. Otherwise we'd feel nauseous. I don't know where that other little one went. We'll go and find out shortly. Okay, while we try and figure out what's happening with the lions, Taylor is on her way to Cheetah Plains. Let's find out how the long road to the east is faring.
So there hasn't been too much around, just a couple of impala here and there off into the distance, and I've been driving quite slowly, just checking the roads to see if I can spot Karula's delicate little paw prints and see if they've come across, or perhaps Tingana's rather larger paw prints crossing over, but sadly nothing just yet. And at the moment there's nothing around us. Brian, why are all the animals evading us today? There's nothing. So we're going to slowly make our way towards Cheetah Plains, though. We're going to just have a double check, because this is quite a nice sandy spot, and if anything is crossed over, we should surely see them. Let's have another look here. Here's a nice big pathway. Now, if you have a look at this animal pathway, though you can't see it as prominently anymore, you can just see how it sort of starts and then veers off to the left as the grass is starting to come through. And at one point it looked like these pathways were manicured by us as humans. Now that would be a very good point for an animal like a leopard or a lion, even just an impala, to casually walk along that pathway, cross the road, and then of course enter and cross the other side. But it doesn't seem as though anything we're looking for has crossed in this area. But we shall persevere, and we shall continue trying until we get something. Let's see, there's looks like a couple of elephants were around here, but maybe late last night. And it's quite windy as well, so some of the tracks are quite wind blown, which is not good for us on this road, as it could have sort of hidden Karula's tracks and made them look very much hyena-like. Let's take it very easy. You can have a look here. Look at how the elephants were having an absolute field day. Let's see, I'm just going to stop here. But you can see they were walking up and down, all around, obviously feeding along the road. And it seems as though we're going in the right direction. Sorry, I was in the way there. Of course, to try and find these elephants. Let's have a look. Now, as we're driving along here, trying to figure out where these elephants have gone, I know that Velma was saying that the last time she was here at Djuma, she noticed that the elephants had taken down quite a few trees. We can actually see the devastation just over here. And you were wondering that once the drought is over, how long will it take before they sort of stop feeding on the trees? Now, it's not that they'll stop feeding on the trees, it's just that the feeding behavior and looking for bark, like you can see here, you can see how they've snapped it off and then started to strip the cambium layer from the sort of harder outer bark. And it's just going to get less and less and less frequent as the grass comes through, as the nice leaves come out as well. But I suppose bark is quite tasty, and it's a good source for moisture as well. So they will feed on that still. Remember, we've been seeing those elephants crunching on the bush willow roots, and like I say, I always describe it, it's like something like they're eating an ice lolly of some sort. I can hear a couple of birds. It sounds like a couple of prinias. Let's see if we can find one. Remember, now the thing about a tawny-flanked prinia is that it's a very small little bird, and they don't often stay out and call on the top of the thickets for too long. Normally, because they're so small, they feel quite vulnerable, and you'll often see them jumping around in the small shrubs. I'm just double checking. Nothing around here. Karula, when are you going to come back and pay us a visit? We miss you. I was hoping to do a track quiz at some point, and I thought that Gowrie Main would probably be quite a nice road to do it, but unfortunately it seems as though that there's only very easy ones, and I think you all know an Impala track too well by now, so we shall skip the Impala track. So let me see if I can find a nice one here, an interesting one, maybe a creature of the night that was perhaps patrolling up and down this road. Well, I won't actually be able to do it here because I've seen some buffalo just up ahead. And that's no good for us to get out, so let's take a look at the buffalo. Hi guys. Oh, shame. Now, here's another Duggar boy. And he once was a beautiful specimen. But like James was chatting about earlier, the effects of the drought are noticeable. Now, if you have just tuned in and you're possibly wondering about this drought, it's seen as though you're seeing lots of green vegetation around. This green vegetation has only just started coming through. We had some nice rain in September. It then brought lovely, luscious grass through, and the animals seemed to sort of fatten up. But then we had a couple of weeks where it went very dry again. And of course, the rain that we had about a week ago just came too late. As you can see that this buffalo is browsing. Now, he should not be doing that. They are bulk grazers. It's only about 5% of their diet or so that they will actually feed on leaves. But their stomachs are designed not to digest leaves at all. They digest the proteins and the cellulose and grasses better than the ones in the leaves. So often during these times, these tough times during the year, if you find buffalo feces, you'll see that it's a little bit more wetter than it normally would be, because it causes agitations in the stomach, and then it causes diarrhea. And you often see whole leaves, typically leaves from the round leaf teak. And I haven't really seen any new leaves off the teaks just yet. The animals love to browse on them. Even the zebra will browse on a round leaf teak. Hello, Buff. Don't worry, the grass is coming through. You need to head to quarantine open area, as there you will find lots and lots of grass, and hopefully you'll be able to eat yourself back to the condition that you were. And he doesn't look particularly old. You can see his horns are still beautiful and intact. He doesn't have too many scars and battle wounds, and the tip of his horns seem to be quite sharp. But I think not only does the condition, their weight sort of drop off of them during these times, is that you find that they don't really have enough energy to continue with their daily routines. For instance, like when they sharpen their horns or rub their horns on the tree, all those types of things, the grooming process all tend to slow down as it uses valuable energy. And at the moment, they're just trying to survive. And there's another buffalo that has sat down and is not really doing much either. Just sitting off to the side there. It looks like a female. She's ruminating though, so that's a good sign. Now, we're about to head into a dodgy little dip. And I don't want to lose you, so before I just disappear, I'll politely say goodbye for just a moment, and let's head across to James.
We have not had a great deal of luck here yet, everybody. Not even a track of a lion at this stage. I'm hoping we won't have to go blasting into where David and Taylor went bravely yesterday evening, but I suspect we might have to. Here is a beastly looking vulture. Oh, he's taking off. He didn't like being called beastly, did he? Of course, I'm not casting aspersions on the vulture's character, everyone. I'm just saying that, you know, they do look a little ominous at times. Good. Now, you may have noticed that I put my jugette on, and that is because it is a little cold. Now, we're going to drive very slowly through here and see if we can't find some tracks or just the lions themselves. But I'm interested at this stage that we here we go. Those tracks are fossilized. They're going in that way. One track of one female. They're actually not that old. Did you come out of here yesterday, Dave?
Yeah,
a bit further on. But that was only one track of one lady. Maybe she went for a drink during the course of the night. Wassailing is what she was doing, David. She was wassailing. Did you cross the drainage line from here? Gosh, that must have been some adventure. Down through there?
Yeah,
Further on. Let's just keep an eye out on the road, so excuse me not looking into your eyes, everyone. There are many, many buffalo carcasses around here. Some of them naturally dead, some of them been killed by the lions. It was down through there. Okay, I think there's probably a slightly easy approach from Central Road then. We'll go and check Central Road if we cannot find anything on this road. This is Gwari Pan. Yeah, it doesn't look like they've popped out here at all. But fighting our way in, David, well, we'll do it if we have to, but let's hope we don't have to, really. Now, we're getting to the point where we saw that buffalo bull, but just from the other side. In fact, we're now at that point. Ah. What a lovely name. Once Upon a Time, very nostalgic name. Once Upon a Time, a good and a valid query, and one that I'm struggling to answer myself. You say, why is it that there are no hyena around? Where are they? And the obvious, I guess, what's precipitated that, of course, is the fact that there are dead things everywhere. We all know that hyenas like to eat dead things, so why are they not here eating those dead things? I think it is because, once upon a time, just north of us in the Manyeleti, there are an equal number of dead things. And there's just such a glut of food at the moment that they don't need to come through here. So our clan of hyenas, for whatever reason, moved north into the Manyeleti. I think they did that because their 2 or 3 of their den sites were on major lion paths. They were on paths that the lions were using often to sort of mark their territory. And I think that resulted in them deciding to pack their bags and head north, as it were, which is what they did. And then their need to come patrolling down here to the south has been negated by the fact that up in the Manyeleti where they are, there has been as much in the way of easy prey as there has here on Djuma. So I think that's why we're not seeing that many hyenas. I hope that's why we're not seeing that many hyenas. I haven't seen a hyena, in fact, or a hyena track for, I don't know, many, many weeks. There is the same buffalo that we saw first up. We'll just have a quick look at him before handing you back to T-Bomb, who's got some chestnut red antelope to show you. And there we go. Very pretty, David. Gorgeous. Right, back to Taylor and her antelope.
You just came back at the right time. How cool is this? All the boys chasing each other around, getting quite riled up and making strange noises. Now it's very funny to see because there's a couple of young sort of up and coming impala. They've still actually got a couple of years to go, but they're getting quite cheeky, chasing the ladies around. But they better be careful because there's some big boys that are almost twice their size that will keep them in check. You could see a few of them sort of rounding everybody up, but now they seem to have all scattered all over the show. And I love it sort of at this time of the year where there isn't really too much competition. The female's about to give birth, and then, well, of course, all the males are around, and they're not just limited to the bachelor herds. They're actually able to sort of mix in between everybody else. Isn't that wonderful? That was such a nice little impala shot. And you know, I know James always likes to say you have to stop and view the impalas at least once a day, and I think that's as good as an impala sighting is going to get today, unless we catch one with a little lamb, a new lamb, the first one of the season perhaps, or if we can get one actually giving birth. That's always quite incredible. But we will continue on a little bit further. We're almost at Cheetah Plains. We're not too far now, which is quite exciting. Probably another 8 minutes or so of my tortoise driving, and then we'll be there. But before we even get there, it's probably going to be a bit longer, as we've stumbled across a herd of elephants. Hi, Elise. And we've been seeing so many of them, but it looks as though they're moving back out of sort of the Djuma area and going back south. And this is what they're going to do. It seems as though finally most of the sands has actually had some rain. Sorry, I just dropped my lip ice onto the ground. And that means that in about a week from now or so, some of the areas down in the south that haven't seen a drop of rain just yet is going to have lovely lush grass coming through, which isn't the greatest news for us. That means that everybody is going to go back down south. It's incredible how the animals really follow the rain, but hopefully the new growth that we are experiencing is going to keep them here for a little bit longer. But it doesn't seem like a big herd. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's about 5 elephants here, 4 or 5 elephants. So just a very small group. Let me see if I can go forward a bit and get a better view. Oh, she's quite a big female. Let's have another. Oh, it's so thick. This is down. The only problem, of course, with this time of the year is the vegetation. Oh, she might come out to a gap. Look how large she is. She's a really big girl. She's got a very big set of tusks on her. Are you coming out to say hello, lovely lady? Oh, she looked like she was eating a tuber or something like that. Let's see. I was wondering why she had her trunk curled up and holding it into her mouth. And that explains it. She obviously dug up a root of some sort or a bulb. And it actually split into two, and she dropped half of it on the ground. There we go. She's probably looking for another little titbit. There it is. And now that is going to be delicious and juicy as she crunches away into that. Hello, Elise. Morning. Oh, she actually seems to be struggling a little bit. She keeps picking it up and putting it in her mouth, and then it drops out. Maybe there's a couple of unfavorable bits on there, and she's trying to separate them from the juicy section, which she really wants to eat. And she's going for the final piece. And I must say that this elephant has got particularly good table manners, because I can't really hear her crunching. It's either that or the wind is muffling the sound. It's one of the two. I'll go with good table manners, though, this morning. Oh, the cold weather is actually moving in now. Yesterday, from it being quite hot in the day prior to that. And today, it's a little bit chilly. Perhaps when the sun comes out, it'll burn away the clouds, but I think that we're building up for some rain over the next couple of days, which is fantastic and quite exciting. Let's hope for another 20 mils of rain or so. And if the clouds keep moving in like the way they are, well, then we should be in for a great surprise. And she's still feeding on her bulb. That has to be the final piece now. I don't know what she dug up. It was massive. And you can see a bit of a root that she's got from part of that tuber or bulb that she was feeding on. And you've watched it with Steph before, where he's cut open a bulb and squeezed it. Hello, big girl. No, it's very quiet. Now, Justin, you were wondering what the difference between ivory and teeth are. Now, I'm not sure that there is too much of a difference, really. I'm just trying to think off of the top of my head, because technically, the tusks of an elephant, and it's the same thing with the warthogs, they're adaptations of the teeth. Now, I can't think that there'd be any real difference. I suppose, though, the only difference is that they are longer. I mean, if you look at a tooth and you feel ivory. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a piece of ivory before. I found a chipped off elephant tusk, obviously from bulls fighting, and I had a little look at it. You occasionally find things like that lying around in the bush. And then also when we were in Zambia, I was able to see some beautiful tusks, which was quite sad, though. They had caught a poacher who had poached an elephant, and luckily managed to confiscate the ivory from him. So I was able to have a look at these tusks. And it was very sad, because it was a beautiful thing. And they feel very much like teeth. The only difference is that they get so much longer. And I suppose because they're exposed out to the conditions, they sort of weather a little bit. But now I honestly I can't think off the top of my head if there really is too much of a difference. There must be, though. But maybe you can help me. It seems as though my brain is a little bit asleep this morning, and it's a really good question that you've asked. But I shall either do some research a little bit later and get to the bottom of that. We'll have a little look. But I suppose you all have access to the internet, so if you'd like to help me, or maybe just we can even have a discussion about it, that would be wonderful, and I'd love to hear from you and what your thoughts are. You can either hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter, or you can send a little response or a comment through to questions@wildearth.tv. And I just can't get over how big she is. She's got very nice tusks. Now, normally the females don't get very big tusks. I've seen two big tuskers in Addo, which was actually quite unusual to see for the females. Is because down there, unfortunately, they experienced quite a lot of inbreeding at one point. It was just only a handful of elephants that were sort of saved from the Eastern Cape area, and then they were reintroduced to a big national park called the Addo Elephant Park. And over time, they had not introduced new genetics to the point where they started to see the effects of inbreeding, and one of them was the fact that females were being born with no tusks. Now, we see it out here, and it's common for females to not have either have no tusks or one tusk, but down there it was almost every single female that didn't have any tusks. And I was able to see two very large, oh my goodness, two large females with tusks, but that's about it. They really do enjoy these bush willow trees, another variable bush willow. I think the roots are particularly tasty. She had a go, she pushed that tree a bit, and then I think she decided, nah, we'll go off and try and find something else. And I'm quite glad that she continued doing that, because that tree may have landed on our vehicle. It's not a small one. But off they go into the distance. It seems though there's actually quite a few of them all here, but they're in this very, very thick vegetation. That little one managed to pick up a little bit of grass. You can see now the grass coming through. Just searching there for a sprig that's long enough to pull out of the ground. And of course that's what they ideally would prefer, because it is the tastier option. Now we're going to go back across to James though, who has got some vultures. Perhaps they're sitting in a tree.
Well, they ain't flying about the place, I'll tell you that for free. It's so cold out here, they ain't going to fly until it gets a lot warmer. The most interesting thing about that vulture sighting is the white-headed vulture there, which is not a common bird. He's vast. Well, he's about the same size as those white-backed vultures. And isn't he just a wonderful colour? I'll just describe his colours to you. He's got blue and red on his beak, and then he's pied, so he's black and white on his body, and he's got a very white head, David, which is why he's called a...
White-headed vulture.
Correct, white-headed vulture. Very good. They are not common at all. Now, the lions, everybody, we have searched we've done a circumnavigation of the block, and although it's possible, oh, there he goes. It's possible that I've missed the tracks. I don't think I have. And so what we're going to do is drive into the block to exactly where Taylor had them yesterday and try and find out from there what's going on. No, I don't think they've come out. I was a little worried that they had perhaps headed to Torchwood, and I was worried about that because apparently there were 3 Birmingham males on Torchwood yesterday evening. And our Torchwood's just off to the right-hand side, only about, 200 metres, so almost 1,000 feet to the boundary. And then we, of course, cannot go across there. We must stay on our traversing area if we wish to avoid being arrested. No one wants to be arrested, David? No. So we're going to drive relatively smartly around to where Taylor went off-road, and then we're just going to bungle in there and see if we don't get lucky. The sand is quite soft here, you see. The road has just been kind of dragged or graded slightly, and therefore the tracks are fairly easy to see. David, you're having some iced water there, I see. Oh, are you getting hot? A little bit hot. Shame. I don't think it's very hot at all. What else can we see around here? It's kind of devoid of things. Hello, Margaret. You are very observant, and you say, are David and Brian the only cameramen that we have at the moment? Yes, we fired the others. I'm afraid they were too hopeless for words, so we got rid of them all. No. The reason that you're absolutely right, they're the only 2 guys that have been on site for a long time now, and the reason for that... Oh, sorry, Dave, the vultures flying down or up? Now, I think they've been frightened off the ground by something. Although, no, they're going down. You know where they're landing? They're landing on that carcass. Look, watch, here comes another one. It goes. They're going straight down over the top of this block onto that buffalo carcass at Buffelshoek Dam. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, so we know where they're going. Question is, why are they suddenly taking off now? I think it's because there are lions inside here. The other 2, Jean-Dry and Vium and Eggsy to a certain extent, they're all on leave at the same time, and 2 of them coming back today, I think, simply because those TV rehearsals that we'll be doing, and we're doing a whole lot more next week, they kind of mean the whole crew has to come on, so the leave cycles get tossed out of kilter, and that's why we've been sort of, I wouldn't hesitate to use the term abusing, but certainly why David and Brian have had to work so very hard over the last 2 weeks. Well done, David. David hasn't complained at all. Stoic fellow that he is. Oh dear. I see we're back with this rather distressing antenna. Where's my selfie stick? The fact that there is so little general game in this block tells me that there probably are some lions knocking about. Now, David, I want you to tell me where you went off road yesterday, and then we shall follow from there. Very important. Now, there are a whole lot more vultures over there, which is Vulture City at the moment. And if we don't find the lions, we'll go back to that carcass and see if we can't enjoy the sight of the vultures feeding. It is quite a sight. And as I've said to many of you before, I'm just not convinced about the number of vultures that there are left in this area. If you'd had a carcass like that a little while back, the place would have been covered in vultures. Now it just doesn't happen anymore. Let's just have one quick look, David, also at a magpie shrike there. There we are. Just sort of enjoying the breeze. There's some elephants coming through here. It's quite nice to see. I'm not sure where they're going to cross this drainage line. Let's just keep going backwards. You're pointing the camera in the right direction, Dave. It's just a little difficult to see. There they are. You see that big termite mound with a hole in it? There. You got the elephant there? Ah, yes, well done. That's a different one. But that's okay, David. We'll take your one. Oh, the wonderful sound of the hardy-down ibis in the morning. I think this is roundabout where Byron had that rather astounding sighting of the failed hunt attempt yesterday morning, followed by a fairly vicious elephant attack on... There we are. That's the hole that I was talking about. Here comes the elephant in front of it. There we go, young bull. And there's another one just behind, but you can't see him. You just can pick up the movement of his trunk. I think he'll come out into the open now. Oh. Margaret, a very good question to which I'm not sure that anyone fully understands the answer. You say, if elephants can reach leaves, why do they push trees over? They can't always reach the leaves, so sometimes they do need to push the tree over in order to get to the leaves. Sometimes they push the trees over to get to the roots. That's certainly what they do with the combretum or bush willow trees. They push them over so that they can get to the roots. I'm going to leave these chaps because they're in very thick bush. But sometimes they do it to open up the bark. Sometimes they do it when they're just frustrated. I've seen elephants push things over there when they're frustrated. Sometimes they do it to kind of show off, it seems. Dave and I had a wonderful experience the other day with an enormous elephant bull who was just interested in us, and he came to within sort of two meters of the vehicle, walked around the front of the car, and then he sort of very gently pushed over 2 trees next to us as if to show us how big and strong he is. Not that we were under any misconceptions as to his strength or power, but he showed us. And I don't know that he ate any of them, but it seems to be knob thorns especially that cop a beating from them. To a certain extent also marula trees and the combretums as well, but often they'll push the tree over, Margaret, as you say, and they'll take 1 or 2 bites and then they just move on. Oh, all right. Now, David, it was around here, was it?
Right.
Do you remember exactly where?
Yeah.
There was a runoff drainage that we can go down, was there? Okay. That's what we'll do. We'll ease our way in there and see what we can find. here. Here we are. All the tracks going in here. Does this look familiar, David? Not right. A bit further on. I suspect it'll take us to the same spot. In fact, I'm 99% sure it will. Was it this one? No. Are you sure? We're about to arrive back at that buffalo fellow, not the carcass. Yes, I think we might have. Okay. I'm going to go in on those other tracks because I think that's where everybody else came out. Strange wind blowing through the area, everybody. Bit of a front coming through, so maybe we won't have 36 degrees. Anyway, while we search, let's find out what's going on Cheetah Plains, and I'll hopefully have you some good news shortly.
So we're here on Cheetah Shanae as she was bumbling along with her guests, and she said she had some leopard tracks. She said female leopard tracks coming into Cheetah. Again, driving very slowly, just having a yeah, they're talking now. Lots of people have started on game. Just go drop. Now they seem to have been coming east into Cheetah Plains, but there's a beautiful big drainage system just down here that runs in front of the Cheetah Plains Lodge. Now, obviously we can't go driving right in front of the lodge, so we're just going to have to check carefully to see if this leopard has possibly popped out, or perhaps use the drainage line. So we're coming out to an area where it ends, and hopefully we'll be able to have a quick little look around. So we'll just bumble on slowly. There's a couple of impala, so hopefully if there is anything around, they'll also keep an eye out and let us know if they see anything. And I suppose that's a way that we communicate with the animals. Not like how I'd like to, though. I'd obviously like to be able to have proper chats with them. But it's okay. When they see something and they shout and scream, that's fine. Oh, a waterbuck. Thanks, Brian. A beautiful big waterbuck. Actually, let's get a gap here. And there he is. Hello, boy. Now, he's big. He's not particularly large in the sense that the splay of his horns is not wide. You can see it's quite narrow, but really beautiful nonetheless. Listening, something happening behind him, and then, of course, listening to me talking nonsense about him. Don't worry, Waterbuck, actually, I wasn't saying very nice things about you. I must apologize. Maybe he's still a little bit young, but quite long horns. Now he's got both ears facing the other way. He didn't look too impressed. But don't worry, that's not him being unimpressed by us. That's just him listening. What sounds like a tractor starting up in the distance. So very much like we wake up as the sun comes up when we get on and carry on with our game drives. Well, I suppose the maintenance team has to get up and start working too. And nobody likes to work when the sun is belting down at you at 12 o'clock during the day, especially in summer. So everybody tends to start a bit earlier out here and get their jobs done. Hello, little one. Now there's another one. Let's see if he's any bigger. He's got his head down on the ground though, but let's compare the two. Let's see if we can get a gap. Oh, he looks much bigger. He'll pop his head up for us. He's just moving through the thicket though. But straight away you can see it looks as though he's got a wider splay of horns. In comparison in body size, he does look much larger as well. Come on, mister, pop your head up so we can have a look at you. And it seems as though the waterbuck don't look too bad though. You can see a couple of his ribs. You can see there even through that fluffy coat. But they seem to be quite resilient during these times of the drought. And I find that they're quite strange because they just feed on grass. So when the grass disappears, It's always, I always think to myself, what are they eating? But maybe they eat so much in the summer months that they put on quite a bit of a sort of fat reserve, and then they're able to utilize that during the drier months. He is beautiful. I really want to get a decent look at him, but now he's turning away and going into the distance. And when you're a waterbuck, obviously you've got a nice long tongue, not as long as a giraffe though. And you're able to use that to loop around the grass, or you can really just use your teeth and bite down on the grass too and pull it up. There we go. Look at that, look at that. And we're looking from the back side, but he's a lovely boy. Belinda, you love the fact that a waterbuck's nose is shaped like a heart. I think that that's quite precious, of course. Now, even though they look slightly on the thin side, let's try and have a look at his nose. And it looks like his nose is still quite moist. Can you see that? And that's a very good indication when looking at animals, as if they have very dry, crusty noses, then you know that they're not doing too well, I'm afraid. But even though slightly on the more slender side, perhaps getting ready for summer. No, I'm only teasing, of course. They don't worry like us as humans to have your summer body ready. The plumper you are in the bush, the better, the healthier you are. I think I'd like to be a waterbuck, a hippo. It would be quite nice. But I think let's move on from these two boys. Let's go up ahead. I think I can see a bird sitting on a fallen tree, but it's a bit far away, so we'll have to edge closer. I'm going to turn the radio up just a little bit. Thank you, Stephanie, for getting back to me about the ivory versus tooth question. Now, you've said that the outside layer is made of dentine and is also covered in enamel, and I think that they're just completely differently designed compared to a normal tooth. Like I said, we've got quite a few birds here, but I'll show you now. Let's look at those ones first and see who's up there. And I think the fact that they're not used in the same way as the teeth are used, they're more sort of used as digging tools. Who have we got here? It looks like we've got two Wahlberg's eagles, and it's not Mr. and Mrs. Pale Form Wahlbergs that we have on Duma. This seems to be another pair of dark morphs. Isn't that lovely? And now we're watching them being quite affectionate towards each other. Oh, that is very nice. Hello. Oh, yes, we've caught you in the act. So it was quite interesting. So thanks, Stephanie, again. Just about the ivory. And I'm sure that in some way there will be a couple more chemical compositions that will be slightly different versus the tooth. I think the teeth on the outside, their tusks, have to be quite resilient to, of course, digging, and as well as the males fighting. So clashing tusks, they need to be quite strong. Now they're just sitting here, contemplating what to do for the rest of the day. Or maybe it is a juvenile. What do you think? You see how its bill hasn't quite got as much yellow on it. I don't know if you noticed that, or maybe it's just dirty. But let's see if we can sneak over. And there's another bird I want to show you, but we'll get to that one in a moment. I'm quite interested in these little eagles now. Let's see. We've snuck up a little bit closer. Now, the behavior straight away, of course, looked to me like it was a mating pair. But the little eagle on the right didn't seem to have as yellow of a beak. Can you see that? But maybe it's just because it's slightly dirty. Yes, I think that that's the case. I think that one has just got a little bit of dirt or something on its beak that you can't see that yellow coming through quite nicely. Oh, isn't this lovely? Oh, look at them nibbling at each other. Turn your volume up. Isn't that amazing? Now there's a very unwelcome drongo that's joined the party to the left. And I just want to show you how it's sort of watching these two eagles very carefully. Here it is. And you know very well that the drongos must be the naughtiest birds in the bush and the bravest for their size, because they're known for mobbing big eagles or martial eagles, even to the African fish eagles. But hopefully this drongo won't bother these two eagles, because they're not doing too much. They're just happily just sitting there, sort of strengthening between the bot. Oh no, it's mobbing the eagles now. That's not very nice. Did you see it come through? That's very rude. These two eagles are just minding their own business, Mr. Drongo. Obviously he's feeling left out. They don't seem to mind the drongo too much though. Still showing each other some affection. That is so lovely. We don't often get to see affection from the birds, and it's something that we're going to be seeing a lot of now, is the courtship process between the various birds that are going to start building nests together. And of course, same as lions, the same as humans, grooming, or sort of just touching, rubbing your fingers through somebody's hair, or, you know, scratching a dog behind the ears. We're all bonding with these various animals. And this is a way that the birds are, of course, bonding with each other. And maybe they have a nest nearby too. Don't let that drongo bother you though. Isn't that lovely? Drongo's starting to shout again, so I wonder if it's going to get ready for a surprise attack. There you go. Leave them alone. What did they do to you, drongo? Now, it's not that the drongo can really hurt these Wahlberg's eagles. It's more the fact that that drongo becomes a nuisance. And when you're an eagle and you get bopped on the head a couple of times, well, you'll only take it so much before you eventually give up. These eagles don't look like they're particularly interested in eating anything that's around them at the moment. They are so engrossed with themselves. Now listen to the drongos now trying to mimic the call of the eagle. You hear that very high-pitched noise? That's not the eagles. Very typical of these drongos to do that. Now, James, you were wondering if these Wahlbergs will hunt in pairs. Not typically, because for quite some time of the year they can spend their time alone, and off they go. But if they find something large enough, and I reckon the other member is close by, let me just turn the radio down, then I think that they will probably feed on the same kill. So if they catch something, say like a young scrub hare, that's quite a bit of food to eat. Possibly during this courtship process they will actually share that meal. Now that was really interesting to hear that fork-tailed drongo mimicking the eagles. And I've heard them not only mimic other birds, but I've even heard them, one, mimicking a black-backed jackal before, which was unbelievable to hear. I was sitting in a herd of elephants, watching the elephants, and there were drongos flying around like we normally see them doing. And well, the next minute I heard this strange call, and I thought, that's bizarre. And out in the middle of the elephants came a young black-backed jackal, trying to dodge the feet of those big creatures. And this fork-tailed drongo then started mobbing the jackal, but then also proceeded to start calling like one. What are you doing now? It's a bizarre movement. I don't think I've ever seen a bird do that before. Ah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg's eagle of Cheetah Plains. We're going to leave them in peace and let them carry on with the honeymoon period. But I believe James has finally got what he was looking for.
I have to confess, everybody, I'm most relieved to have found what we have found here, but I've got to tell you, our performance this morning has been dire. We drove straight past these lions, and thankfully the great veteran Ephraim of Cheetah Plains came past with his eyes open, and he managed to spot them. I must have been looking at the road when we came past here, or looking for tracks, or looking down perhaps towards some vultures or something, but we drove straight past them. They're not more than, I don't know, maybe 40 meters off the road. And thankfully, Ephraim has come across today, and they've killed another buffalo. Now, we'll get you into a slightly better position, and hopefully the rest of the pride will come up towards them. And let me just reverse. I'll just reverse slightly. Sorry, Dave. And then we can see them on the termite mound there. That's quite a cool picture. Wonderful. Now, let's just count them. Right, we've got 1, 2, I think they're all here. All the females are here, and now a couple of the cubs are coming back towards the kill. Oh, there's the one with the little floppy ear. And of course, every little piece of meat that they eat is going to make a huge difference to their ability to get over their mange problem. And I think that this pride is doing exactly that. I think they're getting over it quite quickly now. Very little of that scratching going on. Now, everybody, I must just berate you. You know, really, while I'm looking for tracks, you've got to be looking around the place. You know, you can't be relying on me to find everything. You know, so next time I expect just a little bit more effort from you lot there. Looking to the right while I'm looking left, looking to the left while I'm looking right. Please. I cannot express to you the level of embarrassment I feel right now. 40 meters, no, 30 meters from the road. 13 lions on a kill. Oh well, can't win them all. Here they are. And Shark, you're absolutely right. As the streak goes on, I think what we're on now, we're probably on day, 65 or so of cats? 63 days of cats continuously? Well, it's just quite something. Most of those days, of course, made up by this fantastic pride of lions, and I just knew that when eventually they gave birth to cubs, we were going to have the best time. I remember look, when we had just the 5 lionesses, I just remember being not bored by them, but it just was slightly sort of, here are the 5 lionesses, and then the Matimbas disappeared and the Birminghams weren't around, and it just wasn't nearly as entertaining as it is now. Now we have all 5 lionesses and 8 cubs, and of course lion cubs, quite possibly the most entertaining things you can watch in the bush, next to perhaps an aardvark. They're very quietly making a noise. The big fight over what to eat, or who gets to eat, is probably over. It probably finished sometime last night, I suspect. I wonder what time they killed it. They've had a really good go at this already, so I don't think it can have been long after drive yesterday. So once you pulled out of the block there, the pride probably came knocking down here, killed this buffalo, and have been eating here ever since. Such fun. And then there has just the odd, loud, sort of deep-throated grunt from the Nkuhuma lioness. That's the one that you can see in the background there. Let me just sneak slightly forward. There's one tree that is rather precariously pulled into the way. Just ease our way forward, and I think we'll get a better view of things. Can you still see the ones on the termite mound, Dave? Is that fine for you?
Yep.
There we are. Marvellous. Well, I think we'll probably spend a bit of time here then. Yeah, another... I mean... Yeah, this must have been killed last night, you know, because they weren't on a kill last night. There, you can hear the mother getting a little bit cross. In fact, you know what? That deep throaty noise is coming from the cubs. And here comes this one now, thinking about having some more to eat. And just in case you're wondering, that black on their faces, of course, is not the mange at all. It is the gore. The gore from the buffalo. So that is buffalo guts all over the face of that little lion cub. And those buffalo guts all over that face of that little lion cub are going to be exactly the reason that they managed to survive this mange epidemic that decimated the Styx Pride. If you are a new viewer, remember we had the Styx Pride there on the far end of Cheetah Plains. They had 8 cubs too. All of them died of the mange, but their mothers just weren't nearly as competent as the slot are at catching them food to eat. Now, Paula, I have to agree with you, and I'm finding it increasingly difficult to tell which cubs are from which litter. You say you can't believe how big they're getting and how quickly it's happening. Well, I have to agree with you. I think it's just astounding. But with this much buffalo to eat, it's not really surprising, is it? Now, the size, of course, that they end up as adults will probably, as it does with humans, have quite a lot to do with how good their sort of infant nutrition is. And these chaps, I think, have had a phenomenally good time of it. And if that continues to puberty, I think you'll find that they're going to be pretty good-sized lions. And already, yes, of course, they are still playful. And they're just the edge of that really young cub playfulness that they used to have it's just, it's not quite the same. They're just not quite as playful as they used to be. But they will still play, especially after they've had a good meal. You can see a patch of mange there on the elbow. Linda, what an interesting thought. I don't know, but I'm going to say no. You say, is it possible that the salt in the ground has helped with the itching? I'll tell you why I'm going to say no. Because it didn't help with the Styx Pride, and the Styx Pride, of course, they're in a pretty salty area, basically. That entire clearing at Cheetah Plains is a sodic area. It's a salty area, and it didn't help them in the slightest. So no, I don't think that was the case at all. I just think it's food. I think it's food that they've eaten. I think it's also the fact that they live in a sort of more salubrious environment, if you like. Their mothers and aunts have been that much more effective at killing. I remember way back, just as the Styx Pride got mange, those mothers weren't spending any time with their cubs. The cubs were in that dam on their own, and the mothers didn't catch anything. They just didn't seem to be able to bring themselves to catch anything. And I think, it's interesting. If you're a lioness on your own, you eat as well as lionesses in prides of 3 or 4 more. So I think you're going to find that a pride of 3 out here struggles to find sufficient to eat. Whereas a pride of 5, of course, well, they're big enough to take out big prey like buffalo. And as we said at the very beginning of the drought, we said for some of these animals, the drought's going to be a boom time, and it certainly has been for the Nkuhumas. The Styx, not so much. And maybe because things like the wildebeest moved off, and the zebra's pretty big for 3 lionesses. They don't seem to be particularly effective at killing them either. That noise you can hear is not an adult. That's the females making that noise. It's not the females, the cubs. It's the little cubs making that noise. They've got a long way into this carcass in the space of time that they've been here. Now, there is a male lion on Torchwood, which obviously we can't go to, but quite interesting that he's this close and he's clearly not aware of this kill, because I think he'd probably have wandered in here. But apparently he too has eaten. He's looking pretty fat. That's just fantastic. I don't think that cub's appreciation of the laws of gravity are particularly strong yet. That's it. Oh dear, yeah. Oh. Heavy backside. Like a small leopard almost. Yeah, I'm just going to keep you posted as to what's going on Torchwood, because I know we're all interested in the fate of the Birminghams. There are another male's joining that one there. I don't know which two they are, but it's quite interesting that they are there and not here. Hello, Spara. We were talking about the Styx pride, and they're a small pride, and their ability to survive seems to be compromised by the size of the pride. So 3 probably not quite as good as 4, and 3 definitely not as good as 1. And you're wondering if perhaps they'd ever think about joining this pride. They can't really do that because they're not related. But the Styx pride used to be that Styx pride... Oh, I'm just listening to the radio quickly. Okay, Taxon's just saying that they are on a kill, the 2 males. Right. The Styx pride used to be much bigger than it is, and I think that for a while this group of Styx that we know was known as the Styx breakaway pride. So what happens is that the pride can split, go off on its own, and then yes, it could join up again. That's happened with a few prides that I know of. But what's interesting here is that the Styx, of course, are not related to the Nkuhumas, and therefore the chances of them joining up with the unrelated lionesses. Remember, all these lions are related to each other, sisters, cousins, and aunts. I think you'll find that it's impossible for the Styx to join up here. It wouldn't advantage the Nkuhumas at all. I think 5 is really the ideal number if you want to eat buffalo around here, with a little bit of help from males every now and again. Robin D, quite apart from what the Lion King would have you believe, lionesses do not like to spend time with the males. I'm just going to turn my radio down here because it's getting a bit loud in my ear. And you're saying here, Robin, you say, would the Nkuhumas seek out the Birminghams? No, they wouldn't. They would absolutely not. The Birminghams play the advantage to the Birminghams, or the advantage to the Nkuhumas for the Birminghams is that the Birminghams look after the territory and make sure that no other males come into the area. One of the Birminghams, or a few of the Birminghams, have got offspring here, but otherwise there is no point in the lionesses spending time with the males. Unless there are other males in the area, which there aren't, it doesn't help them because the males will steal their food. They will cause trouble by trying to mate with females who don't want to mate. They will not be particularly effective at any hunt because they tend to just hang back until the main work has been actually done by the females. They can hunt, they have to hunt if they want to eat. And so what you find is at a kill like this, they try and, they don't make an attempt, I don't think, to be quiet, but you'll find that they won't roar. So, for example, if a Birmingham boy calls in the distance, these lionesses, it's very interesting to watch. They'll listen to the call, and then they carry on eating. They don't respond. They won't call the males in. So they absolutely don't seek them out. Unless one of them's in estrus, then she might seek out a male. But as far as the life of the pride goes, they don't want to spend time with the males. The male adds no value to the pride now. He has far more value by being around the place, defending his big territory from other males. Now, Bill, you have fallen, well, not fallen victim, but you've certainly been perhaps semi-persuaded of the notion that a lioness is able to hold a male's sperm for up to 3 months before actually conceiving. No, Bill, that's not true. It's one of those sort of bush misconceptions that's come about, I think, through some pretty inaccurate viewing of lions. And I think the reason that, and I'll tell you about a few others, because they're relevant to this time of year, I think the key thing about that one, Bill, is that when males come into an area, females come into what we call proto-estrus or anestrus, which means they come into an estrus cycle, but they don't ovulate. And so the males mate with them. Then what happens is the females, sometime after that, there's a lioness has seen something there, Dave. You see she's looking, not sure what she's looking at. She just turned and suddenly looked towards the north. Maybe another elephant coming through here. Anyway, nothing so far, Bill. And then they'll come into proper estrus and ovulate later, and then mate again. But to store sperm, no, I really don't think it's possible at all. And I think it comes from that gap. So you see a lioness mating, 3 months later, perhaps you don't see them mating again, and then 3 months after that, they give birth. And I think it's just missing, somewhere in the middle there, it's missing the second mating period. So they won't conceive the first time very often. Now, at this time of the year, of course, we're going into the impala lambing season, and during the impala lambing season, the greatest bush legend, if you like, outright lie, if you're a little bit harsher, is that impala will keep or hold back their babies until the conditions are favorable. Now, you will hear guides around the place still to this day tell you that if the conditions are not favorable, the ewes can hold back their babies until February. Now, that's ridiculous. That means 3 or 4 months of a fetus living inside a female, not growing. Well, if it carried on growing, obviously birth would become completely impossible. And so, no, that's absolutely not possible. Of course, if conditions are not great, then they could easily spontaneously abort the fetus, and that sort of thing could happen. But no, that doesn't happen. And the reason that misconception came about is because there's a second impala breeding season, which people fail to notice, that happens in September. Just a few, probably only 5% or so of the lionesses will fall pregnant in the September sessions, and then they give birth in February. Why you'd eat wood if you could eat buffalo? Maybe it's sort of like a toothpick. As Kirsten says, it looks like it's falling asleep holding onto that stick. Alrighty, let's head back to Cheetah Plains and Taylor and get an update from them. I'm going to sit with these lions for a bit longer, and we'll see what transpires here.
My GPS is broken, and we're lost on Cheetah Plains now. We're just going through some trees. I don't know, it doesn't want to work. It's telling me where I'm somewhere where I don't think I am. But we'll just carry on going this way. And hopefully Kirsty will tell us if we go off Cheetah Plains and then tell us to very quickly reverse and go back the way we came. So we'll just drive along. You know who would have been perfect this morning is if we had GPS Louise. GPS Louise. Oh, okay. So we're just gambling now this morning. It seems as though we're having GPS troubles this morning. And, well, we'll just try and not get ourselves into too much trouble, but I'm going to be prepared to say sorry a couple of times today to anyone's property that I drive on that I shouldn't be. Now, I couldn't find anything on the leopard tracks that Sinead told us about, so perhaps that leopard maybe just popped into Cheetah Plains very quickly and then disappeared and went back on its way. But we're still looking. We're looking for any signs of any cats around here, and hopefully we managed to get towards the big plains, and then we will check the southern boundary, of course, and see perhaps if quarantine has crossed back over into Cheetah Plains. But we'll try and get there. Brian, how well do you know Cheetah Plains? So Brian's response was so, which is very reassuring. So we'll get lost together then, I suppose. But I think we've got to go down this way. We'll go down this way. We'll just keep following a road. We'll just be like, I don't know, Hansel and Gretel, except that nobody's left any breadcrumbs out for us. And hopefully we managed to find them. Well, let's check the GPS again, though. I don't know why mine is not working. That's quite bizarre. Maybe I have no data or something. I'm not on Jacopin West Road. I'm not in Nkoro. I'm too far. Goodness gracious. We'll go this way. Brian says we must go this way, so we'll go this way. Yes, it's telling me that I'm around in Coral, but we know we're not because we went very far south, far away, and we just went past the Juma Dam as well, so that could not possibly be the case. And also the fact that the GPS hasn't moved for the last 5 minutes is probably another indication. But let's just we'll just drive today and see if we can find anything. I'm still waiting for all the flowers to pop up. I'm quite disappointed that they haven't come around yet. Maybe we need a little bit more of a sprinkle for that to happen. Oh, this is starting to look a little bit familiar. Right. Now, James has got something very interesting happening, but I won't ruin the surprise.
We had such a cool experience just now, everybody, and herd of impala running from something, or perhaps just frolicking in the cool morning, came running through here and spotted these lions very late. Half of them went scudding off to the left, half went scudding off to the right. Oh dear. A bit of a vicious attack on a dead buffalo, aren't they, say? She's got a bit frustrated and she started moving it around. It's interestingly now, if we look here, see they haven't got into the underbelly yet. That's interesting, so that's still going to pop. And so probably you'll find that the soft bits now are quite difficult to get at. And that's probably why she's moving it around like this. She keeps looking down back this way, sort of between where Ephraim's parked and where I am. That is very vast humerus that she's having a go at there. Oof, when that thing pops, there is going to be a stink. Now, also lurking around here, Dave, is on the edge of that. See that bush in front, right, straight in front of them? Yep. There are masses of flies, or there certainly used to be a whole lot of flies. I think probably they moved a little bit. Oh, they've gone off. Sorry about that. They've gone off as a result of the movement. Joel in New York, you're wondering about choking, and if I've ever seen, there they are, the gorgeous regal blowfly. You're wondering if I've ever seen a lion choke on meat. No, that's interesting. I haven't, you know. I think they just... why don't they choke on meat? Why wouldn't they? Because they eat huge pieces and they don't chew. I suspect the fact that they don't chew means that they've got pretty open throats. You know, they don't have chewing teeth, so they break off bits that they can eat and then they just swallow them. I guess in the same way that most dogs don't choke on bone sort of thing. I guess they just adapted to eating it. Now, I cannot tell what this cat is trying to get at in the face there. There's some soft tissue around the nose that she wants to eat. Now, the other very interesting thing, I think, is that it's often horrible watching an animal being killed. We all know that. We've seen it many times now. We've had the chance to experience it. But it's funny to me how once the, as they say, last light has faded from the animal's eyes, once we watch them eating like this, yes, of course it's gory and it's not particularly pleasant to look at, but what we have here is it's a situation where it just doesn't, it's not very upsetting, if you know what I mean. It's inanimate. It's like watching a steak being eaten, well, particularly a fly-riddled and maggot-infested steak, but that's just, I don't know, I don't feel any sense of sorrow anymore. But watching a buffalo being killed is, I find, very difficult. Dave, look at her elbow there. You see her elbow? There's a big hole there where there are a whole lot of flies going in, and I think that's a big gash. And apparently Kirsten says that's been there for a few days. It looks to me like either a tooth mark or quite possibly a claw mark inflicted by members of the pride. And it's a constant source of amazement to me that, of course, a pride like this cannot kill a buffalo without extremely well coordinated plans and without a lot of cooperation. But as soon as there's death, and they fight with each other, and I guess I'm not really sure why that's the case, but also it's one of the main reasons that they have to keep being affectionate with each other before they hunt. They reaffirm those bonds because they do split and they become very upset with each other as soon as the actual kill is made. And it's interesting, I was reading a book the other day. It's apparently, that's common amongst all species that fight with each other. So, for example, the chimpanzees, which fight with each other quite a lot, what you will find that the chimpanzees do is that they will have huge fights with each other, but almost immediately the aggressor, the person that the chimp that started the fight, will try and make amends by going to groom or embrace or kind of just kind of make amends to take down the social tension. And I think lions do exactly the same thing. It made such sense to me when I read that. And then you watch lions sort of rubbing their heads against each other after they've fed, and they lie close to each other. They just reaffirm the bonds and kind of lessen the tension and tell each other, everything's all right. We still love each other. And of course, the species that does that probably more than any other, our own human species. You know how uncomfortable it is to be in a state of conflict with people you have to live with. Unless you're a psychopath, of course, in which case it doesn't feel too bad at all. Mercifully, that is not common. You know, little things, little cute little cubs, so vicious now. Teresa, yes, we are indeed. David is basically, his face is exactly aimed towards that red patch there. You say, are we in the line of fire? Should the belly blow? We are deeply in the line of fire. If it were to blow, though, it wouldn't actually explode. I think they would probably just puncture it first. They will puncture it. And then I think hopefully it would just be a kind of... And then anybody within a sort of 25-meter radius would drop dead from the stink. I don't think that it would explode in a kind of red flying mass of gore. Look at that little thing. We'll ask David to come in here. David, this buffalo doesn't smell too bad at all, does it? It doesn't smell yet, Wendy, simply because it's freshly killed and they haven't opened the belly. So the other buffalo that we saw the other day, of course, has now been dead for 3 days, and it smells like rotting, rancid flesh. But this one hasn't been dead long enough. Right, quickly, Taylor's got an interesting bird to show you.
You can see we've got red-crested corons. Let's watch what they get up to. We've got 2 of them. Where's the other one gone? The other one is so camouflaged. Oh, there, it just walked past it. Now, the one that was sitting down actually seemed like the male. But we shall watch and see. Here comes the other one. Oh, what's going to happen? Don't go behind the termite mound. Did they come again? Maybe that's so bizarre, because that one actually looks like the male with the very sort of grey head over there. Can you see that? Maybe I'm wrong there. Oh my goodness. What is going on? One's calling. Come on, do a display for us. Do a display. This is beautiful. This is very interesting. The other one is also now calling. Coming off just from the left. There it is. Maybe these are both, you see, I don't know, what do you think, Brian? I think the one on the left looks more male-like because I can see a bit of red of, you see that? Maybe they're both boys. Maybe they're both having a dispute. I'm not sure. Though the one on the left does seem to be... Oh, there's 3. My goodness, I didn't see the third one. There's now 3, so perhaps there are 3 males here competing for this area. It's like an arena. Although that one looks very feminine-like to me. A lot more speckled. Just trying to have a decent look at a picture of a female. Maybe that one that was in the middle could have been the female, because I didn't see as dark of a grey crest on top of its head, which is very prominent. And moving around again. That's definitely a male that we're looking at right now. This is very interesting. I've never seen this display before. Here comes another one. That's also definitely a male moving it over there on the left. This is absolutely incredible. And this is it. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with the red-crested corons. We normally used to just see a lot of black-bellied bustards, and I've only seen them a couple of times. And every time I have seen them, it's been very, very, very brief. So I just want to read about their breeding behavior very quickly as we're sitting here watching this incredible sighting. Oh, that's exciting. Okay, so it seems as though they do make arenas, like I said. and possibly the one in the middle is indeed the female, and these two boys are competing now for her. There we go. Yeah, sitting down quietly. Isn't that just a beautiful call? Come on, do a proper display for us. So not many birds create these arenas where they dance around each other like we've sort of been seeing with these two males, and I suspect that the third one is indeed a female. Typically it's only two males that will come together. Every now and then you could see 3 or 4 together. It would be a little bit more unusual, but this is just absolutely amazing. Now, we really want them to do a proper display where they erect the crest on their head. I've never seen that before. Come on, birdies, what are you going to do next? Heading around. Now I've lost sight of the second male, but perhaps this one is going to chase him out. See, they both, I don't know, I think there could be all 3 males here. They all look very much the same, like I said, with that very typical grey crest on top of their head. You can see that. The female tends to lack that. And the fact that they're also all calling. Maybe there isn't any female here. Another thing you can see quite nicely on the males is that sort of black marking down their throat. The females seem to lack that. So this is actually quite interesting. So maybe there was a female nearby, and that's who they were competing for, but maybe she's moved off now. And these boys here are left to sort of battle it out. Yeah, the 3 of them are together. And it's just absolutely amazing. Nature is just so incredible. Look at the camouflage as well. The one on the left completely disappears into the ground. I wonder why they sit down like that, how they race and then they run, sit down, and they're almost taking turns to call as well. We'll just sit and watch and just enjoy this and take notes. It's every day we go out in the bush and we learn a little bit. To be able to capture something like this live as well is quite phenomenal. Getting very excited. Now perhaps because I don't think that there's a female here. I don't think there's here one right now. Maybe that's why they are reluctant to do the full display that they would normally do. And maybe they're just battling out with these sort of quieter calls and not really worrying about flashing their feathers too much. This is remarkable. It seems to have settled down quite a bit. The males are all moving away. It's just this one that's sitting down. The others are moving in the distance. One's about to pop out on the road in front of us. Looks as though he's leaving. Are you off? Have you had enough? Oh, oh. Maybe these two are they feel as though they're worthy competitors of each other. The other one's going off, running after him. We'll try and stick with them and see where they're going to go to next, because they're moving out of that area that they were running in circles. Maybe there is a female nearby and she's just observing in the distance, and they're trying to bring down the amount of competitors. And it seems as though these two are the ones who have made it into the final round. I can't see the third one anymore. Has moved, got up and moved, but they're so camouflaged on the ground. If you don't keep following them, then it just looks like a piece of vegetation. We'll go up, let's go up a little bit closer. They've moved a fair distance away from us. Anything like this before? There they are. I'm just going to duck down because they're just in front of us. And it seems as though the third one has now come back. I love it when they ruffle their feathers, when all the birds do that. This is very, very interesting. Everybody here seems to be a little bit unsure as to what's going on, even the birds. Now, Justin, you want me to try and translate as to what the birds were saying. Now I reckon we'll give them, I don't know, let's say Bob, one of them that was doing most of the calling, was probably saying something along the lines of, hey, look at my beautiful feathers, just been to the feather dresser and had these washed and polished and waxed. Look how shiny I am, look how beautiful I am. And another one was going, hey, but look at my muscles, I've been in the gym, I've been working out, look how strong I am. And then the third one was going, but I can sing so beautifully. Listen to my voice. Listen to how lovely I can sing. I think they probably would have been saying those types of things to each other. And then, of course, when they get jealous, well, then they rush at each other and try and chase the other one away. But I just found it incredible how they were all taking turns. One would have its opportunity and sing and do whatever it wanted to do, and then the next one would sit down, and the entire process would keep happening over and over. They're still watching each other carefully, though. They've put a bit more distance between each other. But no more singing, it seems. They weren't saying anything particularly ugly to each other, though. There hasn't been too much aggression really shown. Just occasionally, like I said, the odd sort of rushing towards another one, or like this, chasing, and then giving a little fly away. But it's really not anything sort of too serious. Well, they're coming back again. This is amazing. I could just sit here the whole morning and see what happens. Seems as though there's more chasing happening now. Less singing, more chasing. Now, unless you're wondering if these are the ones that make the wine cork pop sound, now, you can see why you can easily get confused. That's the black belly bustard that does this. This is the red crested coron. So this is the one that's got the beautiful red feathers that are tucked away at the base of his head, and behind, on the back of his head. And he'll actually erect them and sort of jump up and down and do a beautiful display, which I've never seen before. They're coming back again. Here comes the one coming across the road to chase everyone around. Oh no, I'm going to just sit down now. This is amazing. Now, obviously, you have to have a chat with James because I've never seen anything like this before. And I've never seen the males sort of fighting for dominance. But I'm just trying to look at the feathers now. The female is much lighter in color and more speckled. Now, we did see that one that looked like it had more sort of white mottling on the feathers on the front of its chest. Perhaps that was the female. I just thought that the rest... Oh! Well, they're flying after each other. I just thought that they all looked very male-like. I could be mistaken, though. Let's try and have another look. There's not very obvious differences between the males and the females, I'm afraid, with the red-crested corans. Now, Lou the lion, we were wondering what qualities would a female want to see in a male red-crested coran. Now, firstly, he must have a beautiful voice. They're disappearing now into the thicket. He needs to be able to sing nicely. He also needs to be big and strong enough to be able to deter any other male. So he must also have a nice dance. And of course, he needs to have a good headrest of feathers that come out and when he does do his proper display. So that's typically what they're looking for. We'll see if we can go up and get one more view of them. But it seems as though they've gone down into the drainage line now. But that was really fascinating. That was another first for me, seeing this entire arena process going on between the red-crested corans. And I wish they would have hung around. It seems as though they're completely gone now. Obviously run across to the other side. It would have been amazing to have been able to have sat with them and just figured out who was who. Like I said, initially I thought I saw a female, but I don't think that there was a female there. Just all of them had very dark heads, that grey sort of patterning on the skull, or the grey feathers, and they just all had very, very black breasts and that dark sort of patch going underneath their throat, which the female lacks. So maybe the one that I thought that looked a little bit like a female, maybe it was a younger male, maybe it was a juvenile, perhaps it was his first time coming into an area like this and being a part of an arena, which would explain why they weren't properly doing their displays. But interesting nonetheless. A few unanswered questions I'll have to think about and do a bit of reading, but wasn't that amazing? Something different. But I'm sure you've been missing the Nkuhumas, so let's go back and see what they're now up to.
You went to Cheetah Plains at the right time, everybody. The stomach has burst. It went as expected, and thankfully it did not explode all over us. Now, one of the very excited parts of this ecology, as I said, the regal blowfly, David, is just above our heads here. You see it there? Gorgeous. Gorgeous shot of the regal blowfly there. That is a marvellous shot. Anyway, them is the reason we have maggots all over a carcass. Now, Ephraim is just moving out, so I'm going to move slightly forward. Watch out for the regal blowflies, David. You don't want them in your ears. We're right there. Let's sneak our way underneath here. Hello, once upon a time. You say you're just returning from a break. I mean, scandalous that you took a break during a safari, but anyway, there it is. You say, is this a kill, or did this thing just drop dead? I think once upon a time it was killed last night by this pride of lions. I don't think it dropped dead here. It's possible that it did, but they've been feeding on it for a goodly time. I think they probably started eating around about 8 o'clock last night. They've eaten quite a lot of it. And the lioness has now got her head deep within the cavity, and I think she's eating organs. In fact, you know what I think she's eating? I think she's just got at the heart, which is brilliant meat, and I think she's just kind of licking out the remains of that, which of course if you're a human being is, well, it's pretty disgusting. But if you're a lion, it's great food. Oh, and there's the stomach as well. You can't hear everyone, but just behind me, David's going, ugh, oh. That really is foul. Look at that. And they get so cross with each other. Despite the fact that they're so stuffed full of meat they can barely eat anymore, they still get very upset if they feel like their food is being pinched. Oh, there goes the bit more of the stomach. For some reason, I think because the wind is blowing the other way, we're being excused the stink. Which is a bit of a relief. Now, Tammy, when you see them huffing and puffing and holding on to one piece of the buffalo, no, they're not saving it for later. What they're doing is they don't want it to be pinched by the other cubs or other lions that are feeding at the same time. And so when you see them, I know exactly what you mean. They take hold of their jaws, and then they just kind of clamp the jaws over it, and they go... It's just part of this kind of almost competitive reflex that they have. They're not very hungry anymore, but as soon as anything comes anywhere near what they're trying to eat, then they get cross. There was quite a nice shot there of the trachea, and what the interesting thing about the trachea, which I don't think we can see anymore because she's moved round, is that that is the sort of crucial part. If you're trying to choke a buffalo, that's what you want to be going for. She's been quite patient, the lioness. She did give them one little beating, but there's one little one crawling right underneath her. Right, well, I think we're probably going to spend a fair bit more time here, but I'm just thinking about maybe trying to go around the other side. Now let's sit here for a little while. One of the cubs has had enough. We'll now go and lie down and snooze, probably for most of the rest of the day. Now the reason I say that the pride has been eating since last night is that most of them, of course, are already in a state of deep slumber under the tree there. They're full, they're totally content, as they have been for months now. I'm just going to sneak forward, Dave. She's got hold of the liver there. The lung, sorry. There we go. There go the lungs. I'm sorry if this is a bit gory, everybody. It is a bit sickening, but it is interesting, I think, as well. That is the lungs, and that's the trachea attached to them, that bit of white at the other side of it. And that, of course, is the windpipe. The trachea is the windpipe. That's what would have been crushed when the kill took place. And apart from the fact that it doesn't look great, it is interesting because the lungs, of course, we often tend to think of as being like balloons, which they're not. They're like big sponges that take the air into them. You can see that very clearly. Now that the main cavity is open, well, we're looking at a lioness munching her way through the pulmonary system of that buffalo. And Brett, you're wondering if lions get fur balls. Certainly not from eating the lungs of the buffalo, but yes, they do get fur balls, and certainly leopards do. Probably from licking the hair off. In fact, that lioness was just starting to do it again now. There, she's doing it. They'll get it from the buffalo. They'll also get fur balls from licking themselves and the cubs. And I think leopards get them more because, you've seen leopards, of course, have got those very fluffy bellies. And I think those fluffy bellies definitely give off a lot of hair, especially at this time of the year when it warms up. And leopards, I think, get more fur balls than lions. But yeah, I think they both get fur balls to a certain extent. She is so full right now, she doesn't know what to do with herself. But just can't stop eating. Look at this, she's trying to get into... I don't know what she's doing now. Look at that. Oh, I like this question, and I mean, it's a common one. Ginia, you say, since a lion's sense of smell is so great, does the smell of a carcass affect them? The thing is that, yes, of course they have great sense of smell, but what they perceive as pleasant and unpleasant is very clearly completely different from what we perceive as pleasant and unpleasant. And that's a function of the fact that what we smell as unpleasant is normally in some way harmful to us. It's a little cub made an attack towards the kill. Of all the lionesses to pick to tangle with now, Ginia. So that's one aspect of it. Remember that a rotting carcass to a lion is not poisonous or not toxic. And so, although it smells very strongly, it doesn't smell bad to them. The other thing is that, I know that our taste and our smell are intricately interwoven. We can pick up a far greater number of different kinds of smells than most other animals, and taste more than most other animals can. And what that means is that while these lions can smell something to eat from a very long way away... Oh, that's lovely, David. Look at her there. She's just weeing on her sister. That is astounding. Have you ever? They all seem to think that that's an entirely acceptable thing to do. I'm speechless. Listen to the little ones calling now. So, sorry, just back onto the smell thing. So, although they can smell something good to eat at, kilometers, probably up to 5 to 8 kilometers, I think what you'll find is that they probably don't smell the same range of smells that we do, for example. And because rotting meat to them smells a little bit like beef stroganoff to us, you'll find that they're not put off by it. They have the stomachs to digest it, and to us it's very unpleasant. We wouldn't try and eat rotting meat simply because we know that it would make us sick. This is a very tender little moment, this, isn't it? Well, it's actually a tender moment born of the desire of the cubs to have a bit of milk to drink. It can very easily escalate into violence with the cubs. Look at them all. There are only 4 teats there, and there are at least 5 cubs. I want to just tell you, yesterday, while we look at these lions, that we saw, I don't know if you remember, our old friend Taylor Lautner, the buffalo. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there's a buffalo that bears a startling resemblance to Taylor Lautner, and we thought he'd gone. Anyway, we found him again yesterday, and when I got here, I thought, oh no, because I saw the horns of this buffalo, and I thought they looked very close together, just like old Taylors do. But don't worry, everyone, Taylor is fine. Both Taylor on Cheetah Plains and Taylor the buffalo. We spell their names differently, of course. There we go, another lioness moving towards the kill. I think what we're going to do, everybody, I think things are going to calm down here now. Let's just see what this lioness does. And then we can head off towards that other carcass where I suspect if we approach very slowly, we'll probably be able to get a good view of them. Oh, look at those flies. We'll probably be able to get a good view of the buffalo, not the buffalo, perhaps the vultures feeding on the carcass of the buffalo. So we'll just sit here a little bit longer. I'm not sure how much more of this gore I can take. To quickly get onto the game drive radio. 2 stations here. Yeah, affirmative. Best approach, Quarrypan Junction, Drakensberg. Just head down towards Central. Just helping someone get into the sighting. Now, who knows where they'll be later today? They might be here. They might have headed off somewhere else. They might be on another buffalo nearby. This pride has been extremely unpredictable of late, simply because there's been so much for them to eat that they've done very un-lion-like things for this area. They've killed in the middle of the day, they've killed twice, sometimes at night, and they haven't finished their carcasses. I think it looks like it's probably going to be quite cloudy the whole day, so they might not move around. They might move around a little bit. But, Patricia, I love the way you've asked your question. You say, why do the cubs choose to nurse when there's beefy over here? Well, I think it's because the milk probably tastes nicer to them. It's certainly got more fat in it. It's much less effort to eat than trying to chew raw, hard buffalo, drought-riddled meat off the bone. And I think it's probably easier for them to digest as well, this little cubs. That's going to change. Remember, we've probably got 3 of them approaching 5.5 months now, so they're getting to the stage of weaning. But they're all still suckling. And the mothers will still be producing milk. It's an easier meal. But you can see they've kind of given up with their suckling. This lioness is now, just drinking the juices, really. Ugh. All right, Taylor's on Cheetah Plains still. We're going to move on from here, see if we can't find some some vultures at the other buffalo, and we'll catch up with you when we get there.
So we're in 3 in a row pan at the moment, and we've come across the carcass that we actually saw this buffalo alive almost a few weeks ago now. Now I can see lots of maggots. Can you see between its back legs? Look at all of them squirming around. Now this is quite gross, so I understand if you don't want to watch, or if you want to make a cup of tea very quickly, you're welcome to go and do so. Now, it doesn't look like much has eaten it. I suppose the vultures have come through and picked the eyes out and fed around a little bit. But maybe a jackal, because we know there's a couple of jackal that like it here on Cheetah Plains, have munched away on this buffalo. But it seems as though the flies and the maggots have been doing the hard work at trying to decompose this buffalo as quick as it can. But you can see the maggots, sorry. Some of them have finished feeding, and now they're all trying to move away. Can you see them all moving around on the ground, just all around the buffalo? So perhaps they're going to go and find a place to pupate where they will turn into flies. That is quite gross. Now this is where the starlings need to be, and of course the hornbills and things, because this is fantastic protein, and I'm actually quite surprised we haven't seen any of the smaller passerines around here feeding on this delicious feast. But I suppose as well the birds are quite spoilt at the moment with the amount of insects that have come about after the rains, so perhaps there's no need for them. Well, they do have the opportunity then to be a little bit on the picky side. Here we go, but eventually this buffalo will completely disappear and become one with the earth. There's some zebra up ahead. Let's go across and see if we can have a look at the zebra. I haven't seen any footprints at all, though, of any leopard, which is quite sad. I was hoping that we were going to see Quarantine's footprints coming across from Mala Mala, but I checked the southern boundary. The plains were like a desert. There wasn't even a bird out there, and quite cold and windy too. Well, I think we're going to slowly start making our way back towards Djuma, as it doesn't seem as though much is happening here. But before we do that, we've got a few zebra that we're going to take a look at. We'll just try and get a nice view. There's one actually just walking, about to pop out into the open now. Hello, Zebby. Oh, quickly use the luxury bathrooms. You saw it pop its head down and have a sniff. Maybe it's a communal toilet. And he looks like a stallion. He doesn't look particularly old. He still looks lovely and sort of clean with a boyish look to his face. Yeah, yesterday afternoon I went towards Inga's to go and have a swim, and that's where Jamie and Brent stay. And I saw the oldest stallion. His ears were all tattered. He had scars covered on him. And I reckon he was probably at the end of his lifespan. But these zebra look lovely, young and fit, and don't seem to be too affected at all by the harsh conditions that the drought has sort of left for all the other animals to experience. And they're tough. These zebras, very much like horses, of course, they're very resilient. They're good at coping with the extreme weather conditions, from the hot weather to the cold weather. Look at that stripe. How incredible is that? Look like the stripes stop matching, but let's see when it comes out behind the termite mound. I want to have another look at that. Now, we often see that when you have an unfortunate attack from a lion, but I don't think that that's the case there. I think that it's just got unusual markings. And you can see at some point there, the stripes don't actually join together. There's a thick black stripe in between them. That's beautiful. That's an unusual marking for a zebra. Normally we see those solid stripes going across the back and the belly. And that's what makes these creatures so unique. But let's continue from the zebra. Let's see what else we can find along the way. And I hope you've been enjoying the nkuhumas. I am jealous that I didn't get to see them, but I'm also happy to see that they found themselves a meal. Now that's good. It means that the cubs survive yet another day and go and get to have a nice afternoon sleep with a full belly. Oh, now that we're downwind, we can smell that buffalo carcass that we just saw. Oof, that's terrible though. Ooh, we need more flies to help decompose that carcass a little bit quicker. Oh, please, come on, leopard tracks. We need something to go on. I wonder when the spotted cats are going to decide to come back again. Hopefully we don't have a drought of leopards. That'll be very sad. Now, once upon a time, you were saying that you enjoyed the cheetah that we saw the other day. I'm so glad that they're beautiful creatures. But you're also wondering, do the guides not track them? Oh, who have I got sitting with a bright red head? Who are you? Did you see that? You see that little shrub where all those birds were sitting, just down to the okay, if you go down. Oh, they're woodpeckers. Oh, there's the others. I saw another one that looked like it had a very much bright red head, and I want to have a look at it because I don't know if that was a woodpecker. So if you go down, I'm going to draw away from here because there's something else flying. If you go all the way down, okay, never mind. All the way, no, there it goes. That's what I was looking at. There's another bird. It looked like it could be a red-headed weaver. We're just trying to find it. Oh, did you see it? It just flew at the top of the screen. There we go. Who have we got there? A red-headed weaver. How incredible is that? That's exactly what I saw. That's beautiful. That's the first one I've seen since I've been here at Wild Earth. And I thought that I saw something that had a brighter coloured head than those woodpeckers. As much as we love the woodpeckers, we see them on a regular basis, from the bearded to the cardinals. However, the weavers have been few and far between, and you can see it's just hopping around over there. I'm going to show everybody an awesome thing about these weavers if I can eventually get to them. No, taking me to the wrong place. And now, I don't know if you've ever seen a red-headed weaver's nest, but typically they make their nests on power lines, which is quite interesting, and they've got a long tunnel entrance compared to the other weavers, the southern masked weaver, but that was quite spectacular. Now, I want to try and show you a picture of the female just to show you how she looks in comparison. Oh, no, well, you can see why I can't have nice things, because I drop them all the time. Let's try that again. Thank goodness for the covers on your phone. But look at that female. So she's not as pretty as that male red-headed weaver. I'm going to swipe again just so we can have a look. Look how beautiful he is. Isn't that amazing? And hard at work in this photo building a nest. We don't see them very often. That was absolutely incredible. I'm so glad that that caught my attention and caught my eye. But I've still yet to see an active nest, and it's amazing. I've been doing this for so long, but something like that is a bird that we don't see all the time. Like I said, like to make their nests on the power lines for the most bizarre reasons, with a lovely long tunnel entrance. And that's what's so nice about these different weavers, is that even though they've got the same principle, the same idea of weaving a nest, some of them are tighter. We saw the southern masked weaver the other day that doesn't have a tunnel as an entrance. It's just got a little hole. Whereas I suppose you could describe the nest of a red-headed weaver to look like a hairdryer of some sort. But now, enough chit-chat about the weavers. We'll see what else we can find. Let's go back across to James and see what his plans are since he's left the lions.
We've got a couple of wildebeest over there, everybody. And I just wanted to show you those two specifically. You see their little sort of... I don't know, what would you call it, sort of reddish yellow crown that they have. They're a year old exactly. They've made it through to their first birthdays, plus minus, give or take a week or so. And the cows in this little herd, which is, as it disappears into the woodland there, are definitely pregnant. They've all got swollen udders, and they'll be giving birth at much the same time that the impala will. On my day for guessing when the impala were going to give birth has passed. It was on Monday, so I was wrong about that. When was yours, David?
The day after.
The 8th. Oh, bad luck. Right. Now, around this corner is where the buffalo was dragged. Well, around one or two more corners. And I'm going to approach very slowly in the hopes that we can get some vulture action, because watching vultures fighting with each other and squabbling over a kill is very amusing. Lion eyes, it's not much of a mystery. You say, how did the buffalo carcass get pulled out of the water? Lion eyes, it got pulled out of the water by a tractor. The Djuma staff didn't want to leave it in the water. I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. I mean, yes, of course it would contaminate the water of human beings, but not for lions or hippo or anything like that. Just have a quick look at some water buck there, which, like most of the water buck at Djuma, are nowhere near the water. But then, back to the buffalo, it was pulled out by a tractor and a chain. There we go. This kind of sighting, everybody, is going to become more and more common. You see how it sort of disappears into the woodland there. That's what's going to happen as the bush starts to thicken as a result of the water that we've had. But I think you'll find, on the whole, there's probably a slight thinning of the bush after the drought because of the sort of selective gardening that the elephants have done. Some impala to the right. I'm just going to keep easing down the road here. Oh, Rena, no, you say, is there only one type of grass here? Rena, there are probably about, well, in South Africa, there are probably about 1,000 grass species, but in this area, I would say there are at least 50 or 60 grass species that I know of. So no, there are lots and lots of different grass species of various qualities. Some are good for grazing, some are not good for grazing. Some grow in certain areas, some don't grow in other areas. Some grow in the shade, some grow in the sun. Some grow on toxic soil, some only grow on well-drained sandy soils. So there are lots and lots of different kinds of grasses, which at this time of the year are very difficult to identify because they haven't put up their flowers, their inflorescences yet. And it's only when they put up their inflorescences that we are able to identify them. You can, if you're a grass expert, identify them just from the, the blade or a bit of the rootstock. But to become such an expert is to dedicate one's life to studying grasses under a microscope, and I don't know many people in the world who would find that A, entertaining or B, particularly lucrative. Now I'm driving so very slowly because we know that the vultures here are quite skittish, and I don't want to frighten them off if we can get a view of them. And Wendy's brakes, and I don't believe it, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to pay Wendy a compliment. Wendy's brakes don't squeak, which means that we might be able to get relatively close. Should be just around the next corner. I'm not sure what kind of a view we're going to have from here, though. May have been prudent to go from the other side. Let's see, it's literally around the next corner. Can't see anything. You can see the buffalo. Buffalo's just through there. I don't see one bird. Not one. How very disappointing. I thought we were going to be assailed by the sight of hundreds of vultures feeding here. No, not a sausage. Right, we're going to drive past here quite quickly. We've seen enough dead flesh buffalo today. This one is really very smelly indeed. So let's just ignore him. Bye. We'll have a quick look into the dam. Oh, there's some zebra coming down to drink. Now, this is a lovely question that I don't... I think I've worked the answer out to. Safari Dean, while we sit here in the green cloud of the buffalo looking at those zebra over there, you say, do any of the bugs that are in the horns of a dead buffalo start while the buffalo is still alive? And the answer is, I think yes, they do. And while we interpret a lot of the bushwhacking that a buffalo does when it's older, and rubbing of the head against trees and that sort of thing as territorial, is how we interpret it quite often. I wonder if it isn't because those moths lay their eggs already on the buffalo, and the eggs start to kind of irritate and itch, and I wonder if they don't rub them out, and that's why perhaps they rub their heads so much. I might be wrong, but I think yes, the keratophagous moths that leave those very obvious the pupa, very obvious pupa on the dead buffalo skulls. I think that probably one or two do manage to lay their eggs on living buffalo. I might be completely wrong though. Now, they've either just had a drink, but I suspect they're thinking about having a drink, and like all good African animals, they are very cautious of approaching the water. In this particular case, I suspect because the slope down to the water is so great. I hadn't noticed that before, but that's quite precarious, quite difficult to drink there, and that means that if you do go down that slope to try and drink, you're going to be inevitably more vulnerable than you would be otherwise. Because it does mean that to turn around and run away from something that might try and grab you could be a crocodile. It isn't going to be a crocodile this time, but it could be a lion. It's going to be very difficult to get away. And so I think all of these things, although probably not conscious considerations, all of these things are considered. Now, David, I think I've just spotted a nest. Off to the left-hand side, you will see an Egyptian goose sitting in the tree there, to the left, there we are. But that goose was lying down on the tree until 2 seconds ago. No, there's no nest there. It was just a lazy Egyptian goose. Yeah, the weather hasn't cleared at all today. So we're in for a nice cool morning. I think it might clear a bit later on. And apparently some rain for the rest of the week. All right, let's carry on. Oh, well, let's quickly look at the hippo for Justin once more. Justin, you say, how is the hippo able to float like that? Justin, it isn't. It's standing. It's actually lying down. There are probably only about 2.5 feet of water there to the muddy bottom, and so the hippo is not swimming or floating at all. It's lying down on the muddy bottom. And that's the big thing with the hippo is that it can't actually swim and it cannot float. So in the deep water of, say, the Okavango, they run along the bottom and then they jump up. They're quite buoyant, so they jump up, have a breath, and then they sink down to the bottom again. Alrighty, let's go along the Buffelshoek cut line, I think, which is our northern cut line. Just see, I know we haven't had much leopard luck of late on Djuma. Karula's been down to the south. I think she's had a kill there with the 2 cubs. Maybe we'll be lucky with a Shiluva or Mvula even from the north. Now, I'm fascinated by that sighting that you had of the 3, I nearly said the 3 amigos, I don't know why I said that, there's another waterbuck, of the 3 Korhans that you had today, because I was hoping rather that there would be a report of the red crest actually being stuck out. But apparently it was 3 males having some kind of dispute with each other. He's looking very skinny indeed. There's his friend, who's looking less skinny. Rena, why are they called waterbuck? Well, in theory, Rena, because when they are attacked by lions, and the lions, maybe big hyena clan, are the only ones big enough to take them down, they run into water. Yes, I've seen it happen, but I've seen Nyala do it much more often. I've seen Impala do it much more often than I've seen waterbuck do it. I think I mean, they were probably named waterbuck because of an incident or two where they ran into the water. And we think that there is, I have read that males have territories around water, but waterbuck here we don't see around the water very often. We see them in what we call the ecotone areas, which is the areas between two vegetation types, where that's the kind of grass that they like to eat. That's a gorgeous harem of zebra. Now look how they go into their order. The oldest female goes into the front as they move off, the big stallion staying behind to watch what threat we are. That's him there. So the oldest female in front, her offspring behind her, then the second wife, and her offspring, and so on until the stallion brings up the rear. Wonderful. So, Rena, yeah, waterbuck here, often not around the water at all. Ah, Taylor has got a very rare tick-eating bird to show you.
We're having so much luck with the birds today. Look what Brian spotted. A yellow-billed oxpecker. We've been chatting about them for quite some time now. And finally, my first one since I've been here. Now you can clearly see that it's got a lot more yellow on its beak than a red-billed oxpecker does. And there's a red billed on the left-hand side, so we can now do a comparison. So firstly, you can see it also lacks the yellow orbital ring around its eye. Well, when they decide to show themselves again. Where did you go? I'm just trying to see. I think it flew off. Just trying to work out. Okay, no, that's the red-billed, so the yellow-billed is still hanging on the face of this buffalo. We'll wait for it to come around again. There's a wattled starling too. There we go. Where's the oxpecker? It must be around the ear. Oh, no, there it is again. And then I don't know if you very quickly saw the size difference between the two as well. How the yellow-billed is much larger in size compared to the red-billed. And this is wonderful. There's just the one here this morning. And even though they feed on the same things, they feed on ticks. The yellow-billed will go for the bigger ticks, the more prominent-looking ones, so it'll actually directly pick the big ticks off of the rump or in between the ears, or inside the ears, sorry, whereas the red-billed goes for, of course, those finer ticks like the pepper ticks that you see moving around through the hair of the buffalo and the various animals. And, of course, the wattled starlings, not wasting any time and trying to pick up any little insects that they can that are being disturbed by those buffalo. Lovely female. And there was a male as well that had some beautiful wattles on him, which they clearly get their name from. Let's see, is that one? There he is, running at the base of the feet. And I always think that they're such incredibly interesting looking birds. Oh, we're having a wonderful birding morning today. That's okay. I suppose then the leopards can evade us and spend some time with the smaller things. Now, I saw an interesting bird, I must tell you now. It's one of the cuckoos, and I don't know if it was what I saw. And it flew across the road very quickly, about 8 minutes ago or so, the last time I was with you, just after that. And we tried to look for it again, but I couldn't find it. And it was brown in color. Now, there's a cuckoo called a long barred-tailed cuckoo, which is exceptionally rare. And I see that it's only been sighted down here a couple of times. So I don't know, but it's the only cuckoo that I know that is that color. It was incredible. So I shall have to show you. I'll try and dig up a photo. On my app there weren't any real photos, though that's how rare these birds are. But I wonder if it could have possibly been that bird. There's a herd of buffaloes just moving through, searching for an area where there's grass. And they seem to find a couple of little spots where the grass is coming through. There's also lots of weeds coming out of this ground, though. Now, Judge, you're wondering if the oxpeckers will eat fleas as well, and I most certainly think that they would. They'll feed on anything that eats blood. So that's what they're actually going after. It's that's why they peck open the wounds, and they'll feed directly straight on the blood. So a flea, I think definitely any of those ectoparasites they will munch on. Hello, starlings. You see they're very excited. You would be very excited if you saw that buffalo carcass we were just at. You would be having an absolute field day. Ooh, a little bit of an argument that happened over there between them. Kirsty in Final Control says that the male wattled starlings remind her of the water polo players with their hats. That's a good way to describe it, I suppose, with those little protection over their ears. That's quite funny that we see on the boys when they're playing water polo, all the girls. Let's see if we can try and look at another male and then see if we see what Kirsty sees. No boys here. Oh, there's one. Not very prominent, though. Where's all those big, beautiful boys displaying their lovely wattles? And I love how they sort of feed in a straight line as well. You see that behavior there? Very good for flushing out insects. It's almost like they're doing an army patrol. Walking in a straight line, covering as much ground as they can. That was amazing. I can't get over all the birds we've seen today. It's been really, really wonderful. And it's nice to see the wattled starlings too. And it's so different coming from guiding down in the south of the Sabi Sand to coming up to the north. Because even though it's not very far away from each other, the bird species are so different. For instance, the wattled starlings, I think I only saw a handful of times, whereas here we see them on regular occasions in the summer months. It's really beautiful. The same thing with the red-crested. I can't remember ever seeing a red-crested down in the south. We just used to see the black-bellied bustards. But up here, the red-crested are definitely more prominent. And I don't blame the buffalo for not wanting to look at us today. Heads down, trying to munch and eat as much as they can. But there's not really that much grass coming through. It seems to be lots of other little shrubs and little weeds and things popping through the ground. Like I said, if only they knew about quarantine and the beautiful grass that is now coming through on that open area. There's the male. Now we go. Now you can have a look at the water polo player that Kirsty was describing for you. What do you think? Do you think it looks like a water polo player? I actually think so. It's quite funny. That's a very good way to describe this bird. Now, can we pan back left? There's a flower that I want to show you that was, I can't see it from here. It was really tiny. But if we zoom in, I'm going to see if I can find it again. If you can go up, it was sort of in line as to where the starling was walking. I think if you do that and we go to the left, and if you go up a little bit, yeah, left. It was a tiny little purple flower. It looked like a bush violet. We'll see if we can find it again. It was so small though. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. No, nothing there. And I can't, unfortunately, see it with my naked eye. Okay. It seems as though it's been lost now in the brown and the green in the background. It happened so quickly I didn't get a moment to ask you to pause. But it was a tiny little purple flower, and it looked like something called a bush violet. But we should start to see lots of them popping up. So we'll eventually get all the flowers. And hopefully when they come around, there'll be so many of them, we'll just be able to do a flower drive. But you can see very slow movements, buffalo not racing off anywhere. Oh, there's a little one. That looks like one of the... See, it looks very much right now as we're looking at like a morning glory, but it isn't because of that coloration. It's too pink. It could be one of the hibiscus, maybe a dwarf-eyed hibiscus. But I can't see just yet, and I can't go and have a closer inspection, as you can see, because, well, there's lots and lots of buffalo around, and I don't think that they would be too happy if I jumped out to go and have a look at that flower. But typically with the hibiscuses, though, is that if you have a decent look at them and they have opened up completely, you can see that they have a dark eye. But that morning glory that couldn't have been a morning glory. It looked a little bit too pink, and typically we see the purple ones around here. No, just carrying on with that. I suppose we'll carry on then. Let's go back towards quarantine, though. I'd like to go and have a look at how green the grass is. And hopefully we'll see lots of different animals, seeing as though everybody's moving onto those plains. But bye-bye, buffalo. Thank you very much. I hope you find an area that's got an abundance of grass. But let's go back across to James before these nasty gremlins jump onto the vehicle.
Now, I'm going to stop under the shade here, everyone. I committed an act of, shall we say, well, it was a bit of a hit and run. I was driving along the road and into the front of the vehicle flew this beetle. And he is, of course, a dung beetle. And he couldn't fold his wings for a little while, and I think he was a bit stunned and concussed. But he seems to be getting a little bit better. He burrowed into my sleeve for a while and lived there. So I'm just going to try and sort of bring him back to full health, hopefully by the time we get home, and put him in some fresh dung, just to kind of say sorry for running him down. To be fair, I'm not sure I could have stopped without flinging David clean off the front of the car. Anyway, sacrifices must be made. Isn't he cool? He's still a little confused. I think he's digging in between my fingers. And this is the plum dung beetle. Remember, there are over 900 species of dung beetle. And you can see his head perfectly designed for digging in dung. And the same kind of combs that he's got in the front of his head you can see on the front of his front legs. That's so cool. That is fantastic. Gee whiz. Let's move a little bit forward. You can see his back end too. Now that hardened kind of line down his back, those are modified front wings, and they've sort of become hard over the years, over evolutionary time, and they've modified to form what we call the elytra, which is sort of a little bit like a tortoise shell on the back of a beetle. Now in some beetles that's fused and they can't fly then, but underneath the elytra of a dung beetle we have the wings, the hind wings, and they fold up in the most astonishingly neat fashion because they're actually about twice the length of the dung beetle's body. So the wings underneath there, twice the length of the body, and they fold up 3 or 4 times into that neat little package underneath the elytra there. It's really quite astonishing to watch when it happens slowly. And it happened slowly today because this beetle, of course, was a bit stunned. I think he still is. I've never had a dung beetle sit this quietly before. Hunter, I think only a season is the answer to your question. How long can a dung beetle live? I think that you'll find that once this thing has done its business this year, I think that once the summer, or the last rains of the summer fall and the days start to get a little bit shorter, I think you'll find that the dung beetles probably will die off. But by then they would have laid their eggs underground, and they would be eating the dung. Now, Robin, you want me to know if I can show you the eyes? I don't even know if a dung beetle has eyes. I don't think it does, you know. I mean, there must be, there are the eyes. Whether it can see out of them or not, I don't know. It's now starting to get a little bit active, which is almost impossible for Dave to film. I'll hold it still. There we are. Now look, look. Did you see how it opened the elytra? There are the eyes you can see. I don't know that it uses them at all. Let me just turn it round. I'm hoping it'll fly off. There, the elytra. Let's see if it'll just open them. No, it won't open them. I'm going to give it some time. It navigates, Robin, of course, though, with mites. So where the mite, the sarcoptic mite, is the enemy of the lion and various other animals here, there are mites that live on the that is amazing, mites that live on the dung beetle that help it to navigate and find dung. There you can see its eyes quite clearly now. Hey, Those black things on either side. Yeah. So Steph is watching everybody, and he says the majority of the eye is underneath that very hard plate. You can see, in fact, look how worn away the front of the plate is. Can you see that? That means this dung beetle's been digging. This is the best dung beetle sighting I've ever had. It's a pity about the condition of my nails. No, I'll just do that, then you don't have to look at them. That is so cool. Look at the hairs on the legs. Hello, Jessica. Interestingly, you're wondering which kind of dung this fellow would eat. Jessica, I think probably any kind of dung. I'm not sure if it would eat carnivore dung. Many dung beetles do. I'm not sure if this species would eat carnivore dung, though. You normally find these fellows on buffalo or on elephant dung. But you do sometimes. I remember once I caught a dung beetle. I think it was a bit bigger than this. It was a big black one. It landed on my bed at night, and I picked it up and tossed it out the window. And then I smelt my hand, and my hand smelt a little bit like that buffalo that we found this morning. And that was on account of the fact that some of them eat carrion as well. I don't think these ones do. I think these ones are almost purely dung-eating dung beetles. Look at it turning around. It's now thinking about digging into my hand. Judge, as you asked that question, I was going to say no. You say, do they bite? Yes. They do bite. Not very sore, but they certainly, it's certainly testing what the skin is like. Let's see if it'll do it for you in front. I think it's not going to try and bite me there. I think the skin's a little bit hard. What a wonderful dung beetle sighting this has been. It's very tickly to have it on your skin, I must say. There's a bit of softish flesh there. See if it bites that. Obviously I don't smell like dung. That's a relief. In dark tranquility, this is a mystery as great as the origin of your name. You say, how do the mites help the dung beetle to navigate? I don't know. I'm not sure that anyone knows. But there's some form of communication that takes place, and no one, I don't think, truly understands it. Steph is in the final control, so if he has an answer, I'll feed it through to you, but I really don't know how they manage to do that. So cool. He's worn out his plate. So he's not a youngster, this fellow. Apparently Steph is thinking, everybody. Well, while Steph thinks, let's carry on going. We need to find a decent pile of dung for this fellow to live in. He now doesn't want to let go. That's all right. I'll drive with one hand. Steph will discuss it with us at camp, apparently. Wow, what a brilliant dung beetle sighting. Should stun them more often. I think he was probably stunned, and I also think that he, the temperature probably rendered him slightly, well, not senseless, but just made him probably a little bit less active than he might be. But he seems to be recovering. I say he, it could be a she. It's difficult to tell with a dung beetle. Hunter, this dung beetle is about at maximum size, so what is it, it's about an inch across, I guess. But the biggest dung beetle we get is something, I think it's called a giant black dung beetle, actually, interestingly, and they get about twice the size of that. So that's about that big. That's a pretty big dung beetle. Yeah, I think that would be about the biggest. Marvellous. Marvellous, marvellous. We're going to turn down, we've got a few minutes left, we're going to turn down towards the Gallagher shortcut and see if we don't come up with something there, maybe some sign of leopard. But I don't think so at this stage. I don't think so at this stage, I said. Anyway, it's been a marvellous morning. Paid off in the end after my completely embarrassing performance in finding those lions. Can't win them all, I suppose. No, not much going on here. And I think there's been less rain in this area than we've had on different parts of Djuma down further to the south. We're right in the northern boundary. There's just less grass around here. And there's been much in the way of grading of the road, which is quite nice. All right, let's head back south into Djuma. We're just looking, searching, hoping for a fresh piece of dung. Well, X-Ranger, you know, who can tell, really? You say, do I think the dung beetle is stunned or starstruck by seeing me? Were the dung beetle to have some form of internet connection in its pile of dung, and were it to be a safariLIVE watcher, then I've no doubt it would be purely starstruckness that had rendered it senseless. Now, quickly, I found a pile of dung and some friends for this fellow, so we're going to put him out just to the left-hand side here. Oh, there's an elephant over there, David. There we go. Good luck, dung beetle. He doesn't want to let go. There we go. I'm just going to cover him up. There we are. Elephant didn't see me either. None the wiser. Right, there we go. Dennis the dung beetle is now safe in his pile of dung. All right, thanks everybody for coming on Drive with us this morning. We'll see you later this afternoon at 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock. The recently engaged lovebirds will be taking the drive this afternoon. Taylor and I will not. See you later, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And look at this, we've come across a tunnel here that the elephants have created as perhaps a little love tunnel. I don't know, James just said something about that, and I presume that he's talking about Jamie and Brent, and I'm sure you're most excited to see them. We're going to try and go, let's do an obstacle course quickly, Brian, just while we've got the end here. We're going underneath this big mess that the elephants have created for us. Under we go. Watch your head, Brian, you're quite tall. Now that wasn't that wonderful. There we go. So we'll have to come and drag those trees off of the road, of course. I don't think I would have been quite strong enough to move them off. I'll need to eat some more oats or something along those lines. But it's been an interesting morning filled with a variety of different birds, and I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope that either that yellow-billed oxpecker or the red-headed weaver was perhaps a new bird for your list. But I can see a warthog up ahead. Just coming in to say hello. Oh, there's two warthogs. There's one very nicely. Oh, that one's hiding away. Let me see if I can roll back. There's another one standing out in the open. There it is. Hello, little warthog. I'll say they seem quite content, and they'll be quite happy as well. They don't mind the fact that there's short grass around. They're able to dig those roots out with their very strong snouts. Now, I hope that you again have enjoyed the morning. It's been fantastic as always with you. Cheetah Plains was a little bit quiet. There's a haze coming over. Let's hope for some rain. And like I said, Jamie and Brent are going to be back and driving this afternoon. And I'm sure you'll enjoy seeing them again and hearing about their stories. But from myself and Brian and the Thumb, we'll catch you probably tomorrow morning. Have a good day.